Chapter 31. A New Dragon Descendant. TL. Sungman. Are you out of your mind? Lin Tian immediately cursed, feeling that this guy was truly an idiot. He continued, do you have any idea how strong that crazy woman is? If I see her, there's no chance of coming back. She's probably already gone mad, just like you. That's great. Mwah, mwah. I love you, you little goblin, ha ha ha. Loader, excited, gave Lin Tian several deep kisses on the spot. He laughed so hard he couldn't close his mouth. Lin Tian was speechless. This guy was completely insane. He decided to rest for a bit as the bump on his head hadn't gone down yet. Besides, he had to check the situation in Bright Town the next day and report back to the Purple Gold Dragon Mother. That night, the residents of Bright Town stayed up all night. Ellipsis. The next day, Lin Tian rode his flying dragon around Bright Town, cautiously observing the situation. If the sword Saintess hadn't gone mad and decided to attack the Tian Quang tribe, then it'd be GG. Good game. Fortunately, his guess was right. The mighty figure that had always stood on the clock tower was finally gone. At Nobleman at. Even when Lin Tian got very close, he didn't find any trace of the sword Saintess, just the ruins. And the busy residents were burying the dead in mourning. The cries echoed continuously, resembling hell. Lin Tian felt no emotional fluctuation. The law of the jungle prevailed. He was a goblin, they were humans. It was simply a matter of who killed whom. There was nothing unusual about it. He had no sympathy for humans, just as humans had none for goblins. In the human world, the rule was to kill goblins on sight and clear out any discovered tribes or nests. Bright Town was the first goblin nest Lin Tian had found. He would clear it out and take it over sooner or later. But it wasn't the right time yet. He didn't have the strength to resist human armies and strong warriors. Fell ill. Or left. Most likely fell ill. Otherwise, if she wanted to abandon Bright Town, she would have sought revenge first. Lin Tian thought, falling ill didn't necessarily mean sickness. It could be a mental breakdown resulting in a loss of fighting spirit. He then headed towards Dragon Island. He had to admit, the Purple Gold Dragon Mother had been a great help. Otherwise, if those Imperial Knight regiments had arrived, the Tian Quang tribe would have been exterminated long ago. On his way, he captured many cattle and sheep as a token of gratitude. When he reached the skies above Dragon Island, he saw the dragons still busy flying around, searching for food. Lin Tian flew directly to the Purple Gold Dragon Mother's nest. Before he even arrived, he saw her open her giant dragon eyes, quietly waiting. Your Highness, Dragon Mother, long time no see. Lin Tian slowly jumped onto the cliff, smiling politely. The Purple Gold Dragon Mother's eyes were different from before. This time, they were no longer filled with disdain and disgust. Instead, there was admiration. Long time no see. I heard about what you did yesterday, little one. It was truly satisfying. Haha, it was nothing. I just came to tell you that we need to continue harassing Bright Town for a while, and now we can get even closer. Lin Tian scratched his head, pretending to be very honest. The Purple Gold Dragon Mother stared at him as if pondering something. What reward should I give you? Flying around every day is quite tiring. I have something for you, look. Lin Tian quickly brought out the beef and mutton he had brought. However, the Purple Gold Dragon Mother seemed uninterested in that. Her cold dragon eyes unexpectedly showed a hint of flirtation. She extended her huge, red, tender dragon tongue and gave Lin Tian a deep kiss, enveloping him completely, covering him in saliva. The Purple Gold Dragon Mother tasted and savored for a moment. You smell delicious. The reward I want is you. How about that? Me? You must be joking. Lin Tian felt extremely embarrassed. Truly embarrassed. The Purple Gold Dragon Mother's size was over 100 meters. Lin Tian's size. Just over a meter tall goblin. It was impossible, not to mention the requirement for attribute enhancement. The Purple Gold Dragon Mother was very serious. Of course I'm not joking. Didn't you make that other dragon pregnant? Lin Tian felt even more embarrassed. Let me explain, that was purely an accident. I won't get angry over such things, but if you refuse, I might really get angry. The Purple Gold Dragon Mother opened her huge mouth, each of her sharp fangs several times larger than Lin Tian. It was terrifying. Lin Tian quickly said, that's not what I meant. I'm just a goblin. How could I match a dragon, right? We ancient dragons have always revered the strong. I wanted to go back to the dragon clan this time to mate with a strong dragon and produce stronger offspring. But now that I have you, why should I go back, right? The voice of the purple gold dragon mother didn't sound like she was joking. It was serious. Because she knew that goblins had no reproductive isolation and could produce offspring with any race. She also wanted to see what kind of offspring she could produce. Perhaps this would be the first hybrid of a dragon and a goblin in history, and it would surely be different. Since the opportunity was presented, it was a pity not to take it. Lin Tian had no reason to refuse, especially after devouring the evil goblin and acquiring some remarkable skills. He approached slowly, then suddenly stopped, dumbfounded, and couldn't help but shout. What's wrong? Have you arrived? The purple gold dragon mother turned her head and asked. Lin Tian raised his head and, after a long silence, said, "It feels like an alien is staring into my soul." Huh. The purple gold dragon mother was confused. Lin Tian then used his climbing skill to scale up. And he began his work. The purple gold dragon mother shivered. So itchy, it feels like a little bug is crawling on me. You. Suddenly, the purple gold dragon mother's face turned red, her heart started to race. Her eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. Was this really a goblin? I give up. The purple gold dragon mother quickly pleaded, biting her lip and acting coquettishly like a giant child. Lin Tian then stopped using the evil goblin's skill. Is it enough? Then I'll start now. At this time, the remaining flying dragons on Dragon Island were attracted by the purple gold dragon mother's cries and came to see what was happening. They were all stunned by the scene and gathered to watch. The more they watched, the more interested they became. Roar. Roar roar roar. Roar 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 roar. Yahoo! Hearing the other dragons discussing, the purple gold dragon mother was both ashamed and angry. Shoo shoo shoo. What are you looking at? Go catch some meat for me. With that, the other dragons dispersed. Several hours passed in a flash. The purple gold dragon mother's enormous body lay limp on the cliff, not wanting to move at all. What is your name? You are truly amazing. I am yours from now on. The purple gold dragon mother panted as she spoke, each word seemed to take a great effort. Lin Tian shook his head, good deeds should remain anonymous. I'm leaving now. He thought it would be impossible to mate, but it turned out to be easier than expected. Mainly because he was just too good. And he had gained a lot of attribute points for free, 500 health, 100 attack, and 100 defense. This was truly free. The purple gold dragon mother angrily said, what do you mean by anonymous? How will I tell my child who their father is? Just call me Lin Tian. That's right, Lin Tian. I'm off. Lin Tian rode his bipedal dragon and left Dragon Island. He had more important things to do. Watching him leave, the purple gold dragon mother showed a playful smile, a goblin. This race doesn't seem so bad. No, rather, he might lead the goblins to create a new world. Returning to the Tian Quang tribe, the captured humans had been mostly settled. But Loader, that lunatic, was still mocking and ridiculing them. He didn't even look at his own pathetic state. It's over. Lord Loader has gone mad. What should we do? Will the sword Saintess come to save us? A young woman curled up in fear. Loader laughed. The sword Saintess. That bitch. Waiting for her to save you is more useless than killing yourself. Ha ha ha. You, Lord Loader, how can you speak like this about your master? What happened to you? Yes, from the beginning, we noticed something was wrong. Why do you seem to hate us and the sword Saintess so much? Everyone, stop talking. He is truly pitiful. He must have suffered inhuman torture. The residents looked at him with pity, which only made Loader roar in anger. I don't need your pity. Pity yourselves instead. Swoosh. The sound of wind in the air grew louder as Lin Tian rode his dragon back. After dismounting, he examined the captured residents. He then walked towards the cage holding Leah. Now, you are free. Those who wish to stay can stay, those who don't can leave. What? For a moment, not only Leah but even the other goblins were dumbfounded. So many elves, just set free. You. Leah opened her red lips, wanting to say something. Lin Tian shrugged. I said I would grant you freedom. You are no longer of use to me, so you can go. She had been honest and had helped many times. Granting her freedom was no issue. Now that he had the ability to protect himself, he wasn't afraid of them returning for revenge. The main thing was, Lin Tian was gambling. He wanted her to bring the elves to join the Tian Quang tribe. These goblins were indeed strong, but they lacked ranged attack power. Having a group of elves as ranged fighters would be perfect. As the cage opened, Cassandra pulled Leah out quickly. Mother, let's go quickly. Leah stepped out, feeling a bit out of place. Cassandra hurried to help other elves open their cages, her small hands fumbling nervously, taking ages to open one cage. Gobu Yu quickly went over to help. All the elves were released this time. The feeling of regaining freedom made them cry with joy. However, they didn't rush to leave, as they had nowhere to go. After a long silence, Leah finally said, Cassandra, and all of you, if you want to leave, go back to the Myriad Forms Forest and start over. I plan to stay. Lin Tian's eyes flickered slightly, not surprised, or rather, he had expected her to stay. This woman's cunning and deep scheming had been evident from the beginning. She would definitely choose to stay to keep an eye on him. Otherwise, she feared he might turn against them, kill or recapture them. By staying as a hostage, she could significantly reduce that possibility. Lin Tian, from our interactions, I can tell you are not an ordinary goblin. I am willing to follow you. May I stay in the tribe? Leah approached Lin Tian, her figure as voluptuous as ever. She then knelt on one knee, lowering her head, hoping to be accepted. Lin Tian looked at her and nodded, you are smart. Staying might be useful. If the other elves leave, I promise not to trouble them. Chapter 32. Mutant Goblin. TL. Sungman. Thank you. On their behalf. Do you hear, children? If you're leaving, leave quickly. Leah was overjoyed and hurriedly gave instructions. Cassandra was momentarily confused. Mother dear, why are you staying behind? Let's leave together. We can rebuild our home. Cassandra, child, I find Lin Tian quite good, so. Leah spoke softly and gently, her face full of apology. Seeing her so resolute, Cassandra cried and hugged her. If Mother dear isn't leaving, then I won't leave either. We'll all stay, only willing to follow Mother dear. That's right. The Myriad Forms Forest is gone. Our home has long been lost. The remaining elves also chose to stay, though a few decided to leave and quickly disappeared into the forest. Leah never expected that so many would stay. All right, children, from now on, you will not follow me but Lin Tian, this goblin leader. The group of elves hesitated for a moment before kneeling before Lin Tian. Rest assured, since you are no longer my captives but my subordinates, I will ensure your safety. If anyone dares to touch you without consent, tell me, and I'll kill them. Lin Tian raised his voice intentionally, speaking to the other goblins. This reassured the elves. Then he had Gobu Yu help choose a place to build shelters, they couldn't live in cages anymore. This scene left Loader with his mouth wide open, unable to believe it was real. Elves. Elves joined the goblin tribe. Ha ha ha. This isn't real. Cassandra and Gobu Yu got along well, so they were quite harmonious together. Soon, they chose a place to live, but the elves still preferred to live in trees, only building simple wooden houses. Lin Tian instructed, Leah, tell Gobu Yu if you need anything. Gobu Yu will arrange for other goblins to collect it. I understand, boss. Thank you. Although we've had unpleasant times, everything will pass. Leah said affectionately. Over these days, she had been drawn to Lin Tian's personality and even more to his powerful mating ability. She couldn't understand why Goblin would have such strong charisma. Staying behind to slowly explore wasn't a bad option either. After setting aside the elves' matters, Lin Tian focused on the newly captured humans. Their value was far less than the elves. They were just simple breeding machines. Gobu Kwang, Gobu Tian, it's up to you now. Breed all these humans, Lin Tian said. During the time when the sword Saintess was weakened, it was the best golden development period. They had to cultivate hero variants and third-generation goblins in large numbers. Otherwise, it would be troublesome when reinforcements arrived later. Gobu Kwang grabbed a human. Boss, this human is too small for me right now. It seems so. Then artificial breeding it is, but it will still be tough on you. Lin Tian shrugged. However, this time artificial breeding was much easier because the elves had experience and could help. No. Get this disgusting thing away from me. Elf sister, please spare me. I don't want to carry a goblin's child. Mommy, why is this goblin on top of me? After some simple screams, Lin Tian went to find Gobu Shan, that rascal. Despite spending so many resources and experience, he hadn't evolved. If he didn't slaughter him to feed others, he couldn't justify it to himself. While looking for him, he found Gobu Shan hiding in a corner, constantly scratching his body, even tearing off large chunks of skin. It was a bit creepy. Lin Tian sternly questioned, Gobu Shan, what are you doing? Boss, I feel really itchy, like something wants to come out. As he spoke, Gobu Shan kept scratching. He scratched faster and faster, until he was rolling on the ground. His flesh became a bloody mess from scratching, and the situation spiraled out of control. Lin Tian quickly went over and pinned him down. Stop it. If you keep scratching, you'll kill yourself. Boss, let go, I feel terrible. Gobu Shan struggled continuously, but he was much weaker than Lin Tian. Seeing him like this, Lin Tian didn't stop him. If he died, he died. Perhaps, there was a twist. The sound of nails scraping flesh grew louder, and sticky, disgusting blood flowed everywhere from Gobu Shan's body. Finally, Gobu Shan scratched himself to death. He twitched a few times on the ground, then stopped moving. Did the evolution fail? How unlucky to encounter such a small probability. Lin Tian sighed. In principle, goblins evolving into hero variants should almost always succeed if their aptitude was good. Just like the second generation Gobu Tian, who evolved very quickly and directly. Just as they were about to drag his corpse away to feed it to the higher level goblins, the body suddenly reacted. Crack, crack, crack. The sound of bones growing echoed, and they could see Gobu Shan's small body starting to grow larger. It grew to be about the size of a big goblin, approximately 1.67 meters tall. Surprisingly, a row of sharp bone spikes protruded from his back, and there were spikes on his shoulders and elbows as well. There were also spikes around his thighs. His chest had horizontally growing bones, almost as if his ribs were growing outside his skin. Additionally, a long segmented bony tail grew out, at least 3 meters long. It looked like a natural armor, quite impressive. Next, the bloody and mangled body started to heal, and finally, the transformation was complete. He wasn't particularly robust. His body appeared slender and sinewy, somewhat elongated. His arms and legs were relatively long. The skin was still green like that of a goblin. Lin Tian quickly checked this guy's attributes. Gobu Shan. LV 50. Race. Mutant Goblin. Profession. Berserker. Title. Revived from death. Mutated body. Twisted and perverse. God's blessing. Health. 1200. Strength. 350. Defense. 400. Skills. Bone spikes. Bone sword. Bone growth. Berserker's heart. Battle will. Equipment. Battle bones. Overall. 1500. What the hell? This guy actually has such high overall combat power. If I hadn't gained more attributes from mating with the purple gold dragon mother, I might not have been able to beat him. Lin Tian exclaimed in surprise. Gobu Shan stood still, curiously admiring his transformation, not speaking but exuding an aura of strength. It was as if the words, "can fight," were written all over his face. Lin Tian roughly guessed what had happened. He hadn't evolved into a hero variant. Instead, he had mutated into a mutant variant. A berserk goblin. Boss, I didn't die, and I've become really strong. Ha ha ha. Gobu Shan joyfully danced around. The nature of this goblin hadn't changed. He swung his arms and tapped his feet in joy, almost as if he were dancing. Lin Tian said, "Not bad, your strength is now second only to mine. I believe your intelligence has also grown. In the future, when mating, you should lend a hand more often, personally." Unexpectedly obtaining a mutant variant, who would need hero variants. However, it was predictable that the breeding probability of mutant variants would be even lower than that of hero variants, possibly producing none out of 100 attempts. Yes, boss. For now, Gobu Shan had no intention of challenging Lin Tian and obediently followed his orders. In the following period, Lin Tian's main task was to monitor the actions in Bright Town. The rest was left to the captured humans. The more they could reproduce, the stronger the tribe would become. Lin Tian directly activated the Crazy Life Simulation mode, hoping to cross over if possible. Life Simulation System starting. Current scenario. Breeding third-generation goblins. The events in Bright Town have come to an end, giving you golden time to expand the tribe. The sword Saintess is in a long-term state of mental daze and won't pose a threat for now. However, you still keep an eye on Bright Town's situation daily to avoid any sudden changes. Day by day, the residents of Bright Town gradually resumed their usual lives, with nothing special happening. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. You eagerly returned to the tribe to check on the production of third-generation goblins. End simulation. Extract life progress. Lin Tian said at this time. He needed to personally inspect the situation of this batch of third-generation goblins and then implement a new breeding plan. Summary. A month passes quickly. Cherish your time. Rating. 10 out of 100. Reward. 10 life points. This life simulation is complete, covering a time span of 1 month. Soon after Lin Tian returned to the tribe, the second batch of third-generation goblins began to be produced. Due to the previous attempt at cultivating third-generation goblins, only 2 had survived. So this was the second batch. Out of 100 breeding tools, including multiples, a total of 300 third-generation goblins were born. 40 survived, and they all had excellent talents. Their attributes at birth were several times higher than those of ordinary goblin offspring. The efficiency was barely acceptable. For the third batch, Lin Tian planned to have all 50 females bred by Gobu Shan. He wanted to test the survival rate of mutant goblin breeding. This time, unlike the elves, these humans were pure breeding tools. After giving birth, they would rest for a few hours before continuing to breed. Their value was not as high as the elves. At nobleman at. As long as they didn't die, that was sufficient. Another month passed, and the third batch of goblins was born. Damn, gambling dogs must die. Not a single one of the mutant goblin offspring survived. Lin Tian was furious. Now he understood the low survival rate of mutant variants, probably as low as 2%. It was more important to focus on producing more third-generation goblins first. The third month passed. This time, 70 survived. In 3 months, they had accumulated 150 third-generation goblins, all of which could easily evolve into hero variants, with attributes much stronger than those evolved in the wild. Life was a bit too peaceful, and Lin Tian even wondered if the Lionheart Empire had given up on Bright Town. After all, it was a large town with the potential to expand into a city. Finally, a few days later, Lin Tian noticed a team entering Bright Town. Chapter 33. A large number of adventurers appear. TL. Sungman. It happened so quickly that Lin Tian didn't see their attributes and identities clearly. But he could guess they were definitely not ordinary people. Their attire was quite ordinary, so he estimated they were adventurers. Maybe they were passing adventurers looking for a place to stay, and Lin Tian didn't think much of it. However, after a while, another group arrived. This time, Lin Tian saw clearly. They were ordinary, just a silver-level adventurer team, as mentioned in the panel titles. Not worth paying attention to at all. Just pure weaklings. Hiss, something's wrong. I'm 90% sure something's wrong. Lin Tian couldn't help but say. Because soon another group of people arrived, one after another, at least 100 people entered Bright Town in a day. And the key was, they were all adventurers. Each person's panel title provided an introduction. Lin Tian said, "Did we poke an adventurer's nest? There are 20 teams, 3 diamond level, and even 1 epic level. You must know that Loader and his group were platinum level before, not even reaching diamond level. In this world, the badges of adventurer teams had specific divisions. They were bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, epic, legendary, mythic class, immortal class, and world class. Adventurers who earned a diamond badge were already among the elite, very capable. Not to mention epic level, their stories had to be widely circulated throughout the empire. Like the saying, someone else's child, meaning they were exemplary. Lin Tian felt something was wrong and immediately decided to return to the tribe to lead everyone in relocating. They couldn't stay here. Boss, the new batch of goblins has basically grown up, but the resources in the forest are too scarce, and everyone is almost starving. At this time, Leah came to report. Gobu Yu also spoke. The iron ore is almost exhausted, and many new goblins can't wear iron armor or wield weapons, creating a significant disparity in strength. Gobu Yu and the elves mainly handled the tribe's logistics. They managed very well, giving Lin Tian peace of mind. Since that was the case, Lin Tian instructed everyone, pack your things. Today, right now, we are moving. Moving. Boss, what's going on? Gobu Shan couldn't help but ask. Gobu Kwang and Gobu Tian were also puzzled, having lived here for so long, it was the first time they heard about moving. Lin Tian didn't explain much, the resources here are insufficient, and we must move to a resource-rich place to develop our bodies and minds. Indeed, for body and mind development, because the third-generation goblins didn't have enough experience points to level up and evolve. Like foot soldiers, if anyone could just come and take them out, what was the point of painstaking cultivation? Of course, the main concern was fearing Bright Town's potential siege. If they all stayed here, it would be a disaster. Additionally, listen carefully. During migration, move quietly and steadily. Leah, Gobu Yu, you and the elves handle cleaning up our tracks. Lin Tian said. Having elves, who were meticulous stealth experts, clean up tracks was ideal. Immediately, 200 to 300 goblins began the big move. They took useful resources, including breeding tools, and prepared to set off. At this moment, Leah pointed to the side and said, "Boss, what about that guy?" That guy referred to Loader. "Damn, I forgot about him. He's still alive with grass growing on him." Lin Tian was startled, amazed at Loader's resilience. Loader suddenly spoke. "Don't kill me, take me with you. I want to see you kill that bitch with my own eyes, okay? I beg you, I've been holding on for that day to come. HMPH, how could I let you die so easily? When I caught you, I said you'd beg for life and death in vain." Then, he assigned Ifreya to drag him along. They joined the migrating group. There wasn't much to take from the tribe, just some iron ore, basic resources like cloth, rope, and pots, and equipment. And most importantly, breeding tools. Lin Tian had already scouted a new place for survival, riding a dragon. A waterfall cave over 100 kilometers away. That cave was very deep and very large, complex, with many small and large caves. It was suspected to be a dungeon. Even with Gobu Kwang's size, many places were so high that he couldn't reach the top even if he jumped. But some places were very low and narrow. "Boss, how much farther exactly?" On the way, Leah couldn't help but ask. Because they had already passed through the enchanted forest and entered a normal environment. The surroundings were regular woods, not very dense, lush green and quite pleasant. As far as she knew, to reach the next enchanted forest. It was at least 200 kilometers away. Lin Tian calmly said, "We're almost there, do you hear the sound of the river?" Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Sure enough, not far away, the sound of rushing river water could be heard. When they passed through the dense forest, their view suddenly broadened. In front of them was a clear river. It was about 10 meters wide. A high waterfall was located upstream, dozens of meters away. Both sides were covered with lush green grass, and they could even see cattle and sheep grazing on the other side of the river. A vigilant lamb suddenly raised its head and noticed Lin Tian and his group. Immediately, all the animals scattered. "So much roast lamb and beef, ha ha ha." Gobu Tian laughed, eager to catch a few for a taste. They had been hungry for a long time in the enchanted forest and hadn't eaten such good things in a while. Lin Tian stopped him. "Come here. Without my orders, no one is allowed to act rashly during this period." The situation in Bright Town was extremely abnormal, and they had to be cautious. They must not expose their whereabouts, or finding this cave would be in vain. He then led everyone toward the waterfall. Behind the water curtain, a dark, bottomless cave appeared. The cave wasn't particularly large. It could be described as narrow at first, then opening up after walking several dozen steps. Gobu Tian could barely enter. They could expand it later, but for now, they didn't have time. They brought all their resources into the cave. Lin Tian had roughly planned it out. The cave was divided into 3 large interconnected chambers, each covering several thousand square meters, though not very even. There were many rugged rocks, stalactites, and crystals inside. One chamber was for living, one for breeding, and one for sleeping. There were also 4 or 5 medium-sized chambers for storing items and over a dozen small chambers. The small chambers were not useful now but would be valuable if enemies invaded. "Leah, Gobu you two take the goblins and clean these 3 large chambers. Knock down those stalactites and level the ground as much as possible." Lin Tian instructed. Leah, somewhat afraid, picked Lin Tian up and held him in her soft embrace. "But boss, we elves can't see well in the dark." Reluctantly, they had to light a few torches, but this could lead to oxygen depletion. Added Nobleman at. If they all suffocated to death here, it would be truly disastrous. "I'll find some underground vents. Gobu Kwang, come with me." Lin Tian took out an iron chisel he had made. After searching the ground for a long time, their efforts paid off, and they found an underground vent. Gobu Kwang went to work with the chisel, and soon a strong wind was blowing into the cave, solving the problem. A day passed. The situation in the cave stabilized. Lin Tian gathered all the goblins and elves in the living area. "I have 3 things to say. 1. Gobu Tian, you will lead the goblin assassins for hunting. No one else is allowed to go out without my permission. 2. Every day, 2 goblins will patrol and stand guard at the cave entrance. Report any movement immediately, but don't leave the waterfall and expose yourselves. 3. Everyone in the cave must follow the rules. Don't let me catch anyone being careless. The penalty is death." "Yes, boss," Long live the boss. We'll all listen to the boss. Before long, Gobu Tian and his group captured a dozen wild cows. They lit a bonfire in the cave and started roasting whole cows. However, the elves were vegetarians. Lin Tian trusted them not to expose their whereabouts, so they were allowed to come and go freely and solve their own food issues. There were far more fruits and vegetables around than in their previous location, more than enough to eat. HMPH, you're really something, finding such a hidden cave. Easy to defend and hard to attack. Even an army couldn't get in. What's this? Has Imperial support arrived? Loader sneered at this moment. Lin Tian glanced at him. Smart guess. Bright Town suddenly saw an influx of adventurer teams. They probably plan to besiege us. Adventurers. What about Imperial support? Loader was puzzled. Lin Tian shrugged. I don't know. I only saw a large number of adventurers arriving. Suddenly, Loader burst into laughter. Those stingy bastards probably heard that the sword Saintess failed and were too scared to come. Only these reckless adventurers dare to face you. But I must warn you, these adventurers are far stronger than the Imperial Knight Regiment. The Imperial Knight Regiment was just trained and educated, but adventurers are different. They've all survived countless life and death battles. Ha 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 ha. In the dim firelight, Loader's face looked especially sinister as he laughed. Shut up. Lin Tian threw a bloody cowhide at him, silencing his nasty face. After eating and drinking their fill, Lin Tian went outside the waterfall. He whistled, and the bipedal dragon now named Huainan flew over from a distant peak. Let's go, Huainan. We'll go back and check the situation. Ellipsis. Bright Town. After months of silence, it finally saw new life. Hundreds of adventurers gathered, and the lively noise continued through the night. In the tavern. Bang. Someone took a big gulp and slammed the cup on the table. Ah. So refreshing. Hey, do you think the sword Saintess can recover? I doubt it. The era of the sword Saintess may have ended. If it were me lying flat in a room for months, I'd have gone crazy by now. Amidst the laughter, everyone couldn't help but show a look of pity. They had all come after hearing that the sword Saintess was driven to collapse by a group of goblins. First, to see if the rumors about the sword Saintess were true. Second, if it was true, they wanted to check out the goblin tribe that managed to defeat her. This event was world-shaking. It wasn't just the Lionheart Empire. People from other nations were also talking, mostly mocking. The dignified sword Saintess, driven to collapse by goblins. It was like an adult being thrown by ants. Chapter 34. Danger. Goblin Slayer. TL. Sungman. HMPH, just a bunch of goblins. Leave it to us Blizzard heroes to handle. At this moment, several people clad in silver armor walked into the tavern. The diamond-colored badge hanging on their chest plates was particularly eye-catching. They were a diamond-ranked adventurer team, with an average level around 60, their strength unquestionable. Each of them was undoubtedly a seasoned warrior who had brushed with death countless times. The leader of the Blizzard heroes was named Cecil, a fairly young man exuding a noble aura. Seeing him, many people politely raised their glasses in greeting. Ah, it's Lord Cecil. How is the Count faring these days? Thank you for asking. All is well. Cecil removed his helmet as he responded. Like Loader, he was of Imperial blood, his family holding the rank of Count. Isn't Lord Cecil known for hunting high-level monsters? What brings you here to deal with goblins? The tavern owner asked while starting to pour drinks. Taking a sip from his glass, Cecil immediately passed it to someone beside him, clearly unaccustomed to such inferior wine. He then said, "It's because of my useless cousin. He got captured by goblins, so I plan to handle it personally." I see. The tavern owner felt a bit awkward. After all, that had been his best wine. However, he didn't mind too much since nobles certainly had different tastes. At this moment, an even more arrogant voice sounded from the entrance. Ha! Cecil, you think you can handle it all by yourself? Did I come here for nothing then? An old man with white hair slowly walked in. He leaned on a long red crystal staff, his long white beard matching his fully white hair. Wearing a gray wizard hat that looked extremely old and pointed, he made quite a peculiar sight. What? The gray hat wizard, grew. He's here too. The tavern erupted in excitement once more. This gray hat wizard was said to have been an evil wizard in the past, feared by many. That's why he was so audacious. But later on, for some unknown reason, he turned to good and established the Gray Hat Heroes. When he founded his group, they were immediately granted a diamond-level badge. Several gray-hatted wizards followed behind him. Cecil didn't get angry. Instead, he maintained his noble courtesy. Master Gru, it's an honor to meet you. HMPH, cut the flattery. I'm broke, really broke. If you don't want me involved, pay up. 1,000 gold coins and I'll leave now. Though Gru looked old, his voice was strong and powerful. It was as if he had already decided the outcome. Cecil smiled wryly. 1,000 gold coins. That's no small sum, Master Gru. How about we negotiate? No negotiation. Not a coin less. If you don't have the money, I'll go to your father for it. Gru said firmly, looking like an old scoundrel with no respect for others. While they were arguing, a voice rang out from the corner of the tavern. How amusing. You think just because the sword Saintess is lying low, you can put on a show. Don't forget, that cold-blooded woman is also in Bright Town this time. The cold-blooded woman. Who is that? Never heard of her. You idiot, you don't even know her. Epic-level adventurer. Lucy Lena. She leads the cold-blooded mercenaries. Damn, why are all these dangerous people showing up? I heard she'll kill good people for money. Several philanthropists have died by her hand. Shish. She might slit your throat. Shut up. The mention of her name silenced the entire tavern. No one dared to speak up. They feared falling victim to her stealth. From the corner, the man in the cloak spoke again. Ha, a bunch of cowards calling yourselves adventurers. Go home and drink your milk. Oh, you are the wandering hero. Cecil recognized the man at this moment. He was also a diamond-ranked adventurer. He wandered the world, his real name unknown to anyone. The wandering hero looked surprised. I didn't expect a noble like Lord Cecil to know the title of a street rat like me. I'm truly honored. You're too modest. So, we have 3 diamond adventurer teams here, and those cold-blooded mercenaries with Lucy Lena, as well. Cecil pondered. A diamond-level adventurer team didn't mean every member was diamond-ranked. Usually, only one member was. For instance, the wandering hero, Cecil of the Blizzard Heroes, and Gru the Grey Hat. These 3 were the diamond-ranked ones, while their team members were mostly platinum or even gold rank. It's said that people would rather be the head of a chicken than the tail of a phoenix. But there were also teams where everyone was diamond-ranked, though they were very rare. The wandering hero spoke again. Don't look at me like that. I have no intention of tussling with you, and I'm even less interested in goblins. Those creatures are disgusting. Ah, then why did you come here? Cecil asked, puzzled. Bright Town was quite a remote place in the Lionheart Empire, and it took considerable time to get here. The wandering hero chuckled lightly. Would you believe me if I said I just happened to wander into this place? Everyone rolled their eyes at him. What did the word adventurer mean? It meant going on adventures, challenging dangers. How could it be just a coincidence? Ha ha ha, just kidding. I'm not interested in goblins, but that dragon island, now that I'm very interested in. If I could slay an ancient dragon, I might become an epic hero, right? The wandering hero spoke with great anticipation. Dealing with goblins, such low-level matters, couldn't compare to dragon slaying. At nobleman at. That's why he had come here. Besides, many weren't here for the goblins, they were here for the dragons. The wandering hero continued, by the way, a reminder. Although goblins are a low-level race, don't be deceived by their simplicity. While many goblins are low-level monsters, they can evolve. They have no reproductive isolation and can produce stronger offspring. Especially evolved goblins, they are extremely terrifying. HMPH, makes sense. I've lived nearly 100 years and have seen more goblins than you've seen women. Gru's previously arrogant voice now turned solemn. This race could be considered the most powerful in the world. They've existed since ancient times, always the enemy of all other races. Even after thousands of years of killing, they haven't been wiped out. Hee hee, do you think goblins can be underestimated? If not for the imperial bounty of 300 gold coins, I wouldn't be getting involved in this mess. Cecil, always a humble person, grew more cautious after hearing this. Thinking carefully, even the sword Saintess had been driven to despair and lost her fighting spirit. These goblins might indeed be unusual. They had analyzed it, not just mindlessly believing the sword Saintess couldn't handle a group of goblins. Various factors were at play, like deaths in Bright Town, dragons, and several Imperial Knight regiments perishing, plus long-term guarding duties, among other things. This led to the current situation. Though her reputation was tarnished, it couldn't completely overshadow the sword Saintess's brilliance. Alright then, Master Gru, let's join forces to deal with those goblins. You can keep the gold coins, I won't take any reward. Cecil finally decided. His original purpose wasn't for the bounty but to eliminate the goblins on his family's orders, proving their superiority to Loder's family. Indirectly, this would show the Emperor that their family was far superior to the Stantmont family. But the situation had changed. To ensure success, it was better to team up with others. Gru's old eyes gleamed with a sly smile. Ha ha ha, since Lord Cecil is so generous, I won't refuse. Let's join forces. Even against a goblin leader or goblin overlord, we can handle it. Ah, looks like those 300 gold coins aren't for us. No worries, let's just watch the show. Weren't we mainly here to see the Sword Saintess's disgrace? Mission accomplished. Some sighed, some lamented. They had hoped to try their luck and earn 300 gold coins, thinking it was just goblins. But with 2 diamond adventurers joining forces, there was no chance. Cecil, Gru, and the others quickly packed up and left the tavern, finding a spot on the street to discuss their battle plan. In my opinion, let's solve this with brute force. The Sword Saintess failed because she was held back and couldn't fight properly, Gru suggested. Cecil remained cautious. There are too many unknowns. We should first find their location, observe, and then make specific plans. You young people are too cautious. It's so troublesome. Leave those tasks to you then. Gru grumbled. Cecil didn't refuse. That works. Wait. He looked toward the entrance of Bright Town. A mysterious figure clad entirely in rusty armor approached, covered so thoroughly that not even a finger or patch of skin was visible. It was the type of heavy armor that offered extremely high defense. For an ordinary person, walking a few steps in it would be strenuous. This person also carried a greatsword on their back. Yes, a greatsword. A weapon half a meter wide and 1.5 meters long. My goodness, that guy is truly bizarre. Cecil couldn't help but remark. Estimating the newcomer's strength, he thought of recruiting him. Hey, sir, would you like to join us for a chat? Hearing someone call out, the heavily armored figure slowly walked over. What's the matter? The voice that came from the figure was deep and commanding, likely altered with a voice changer. This only piqued Cecil's curiosity more. How should we address you? Why are you dressed in such heavy armor, even disguising your voice? That's my personal business. If that's all, I won't be staying. The mysterious figure in heavy armor turned to leave. At this moment, Gru spoke up. Didn't expect Goblin Slayer to come here. Or rather, of course Goblin Slayer would come. Why don't we have a chat? Chapter 35. The Mysterious Goblin Slayer. T.L. Sungman. The heavily armored mysterious man was none other than the infamous Goblin Slayer. He wasn't an adventurer and didn't belong to any faction. He simply enjoyed slaughtering goblins. If he had to be assigned a rank, it would be around the epic level, as stories about him circulated widely throughout the Empire. Cecil felt awkward for a moment. Truly rude of me, I apologize for not recognizing you. I never hoped for too many people to know me. Being able to quietly slaughter goblins is enough. Goblin Slayer said indifferently. Old Gru took the opportunity to mock. Haha, Lord Cecil, haven't you even heard of Goblin Slayer? He's someone who has killed goblin leaders, you know. By the way, they say in one battle you killed thousands of goblins. Is it true? Your combat prowess almost rivals the Sword Saintess. Thousands. Upon hearing this, Cecil's face was full of astonishment. That's way too many. And there were goblin leaders among them. Goblin Slayer started to get a bit impatient. True or not, it doesn't matter. Even if I killed tens of thousands, there are still endless goblins to kill. Seeing his impatience, Gru quickly explained their intention. We plan to join forces to wipe out that group of goblins. How about cooperating with us, Lord Goblin Slayer? Yes, even the Sword Saintess fell to the goblins. It's better to cooperate. Hearing how powerful he was, Cecil eagerly wanted to recruit him. Cooperate. I have done that with people before, but every time they got killed by goblins. I think I'll pass. Goblin Slayer politely declined. Cecil felt troubled. This guy was too arrogant, right? He even emphasized that the Sword Saintess fell. Was he really that confident? Gru wanted to say more, but Goblin Slayer interrupted again. You need to join forces, but I don't. Do you want to know why? Gru suddenly crushed the cookie in his hand, his old face twitching. Aren't you being too arrogant? If you get caught by goblins and have your limbs chopped off and cooked, don't cry for help. He couldn't hold back anymore. Previously, if anyone dared to speak like this, he would have blasted them with a powerful spell. Cecil, sensing the complexity of the situation, quickly tried to calm things down. Forget it. It's fine if we don't cooperate. HMPH, I just hope you won't come begging me for help then. Goblin Slayer left without looking back, leaving the two behind, one bewildered and the other angry. Cecil couldn't help but smile bitterly. What a strange person. TCH, just a pure waste. So he killed a few goblins, who gave him such a big face. Someone might think he cleared out some high-tier monsters, maybe even cleaned up the Great Tomb. Gru muttered angrily. The Great Tomb was the largest monster gathering place in the Lionheart Empire, rumored to have a 12th-tier demon king. It had always been a tough challenge, even the sword Saintess avoided it. Then Gru stood up abruptly. Let's go. What are you still dawdling for? Quickly clean up those trash, I don't want to stay in this damn place for another moment. Now, are you sure we shouldn't prepare more? Cecil felt a bit wary, knowing even the sword Saintess suffered a loss. Gru snorted coldly. Prepare for what? Just goblins, can't we handle them together? If we don't act now, that guy will steal the credit. That's true. With that, the two of them and their team set out. Ellipsis. On a hillside far from the town, a large green head poked out. Those cold eyes became more and more unsettling the longer you looked at them. Lin Tian used the elven, keen skill to observe the three from a distance, calculating in his mind. Goblin Slayer. I didn't expect such a character to exist, someone who specifically hunts goblins. There are too many weirdos. Previously, Loader and his group of perverts enjoyed torturing the weak. Now there was someone who specialized in hunting goblins. What did goblins ever do to them? Oh wait, probably everything. Goblin Slayer. LV 65. Race. Human. Profession. None. Title. Goblin Slayer. Goblin Charmer. Tyrant. Massacring Maniac. One who shouldn't exist. Health. 900. Strength. 260. Defense. 450. Skills. Heavy Strike. Father's Blood. Equipment. Rusty Iron Armor. Rusty Broadsword. Overall. 1000 approximately 3000. Hiss. Looking at Goblin Slayer's stats panel, Lin Tian didn't know what to say. How did the stats range from 1000 to 3000? Was this a joke? System, are you kidding me? Or did something go wrong? Lin Tian quickly asked. However, the system gave an annoyingly official response. Sorry host, there is no issue here. He couldn't think of any more questions to ask. So be it, he decided to check the attribute panels of the other two. Cecil, with an overall combat power of only 1300, held the profession of Holy Knight, and possessed skills that restrained monsters. Gru, with a slightly higher combat power of 1400, was a Great Mage, with a multitude of skills, making him quite difficult to deal with. Watching them leave Bright Town, Lin Tian also mounted Little Huan and set off ahead. These two diamond-level guys seem pretty dumb. They shouldn't be a big problem, but that Goblin Slayer, I need to think more about him. At Nobleman at. Riding on horseback, Cecil and his team soon arrived at the vicinity of the former Tian Quang tribe site. There was nothing left. It had been specially cleaned up to blend in with the surrounding environment. This created a misleading effect. It made those who came looking for trouble think that the tribe hadn't moved but simply couldn't be found. Hiss. Such a big goblin tribe should have been discovered by now. This enchanted forest area isn't that big. Old Gru spoke in confusion, feeling that something was off. Cecil also said, there are many traces of battles along the way. Although they are from a long time ago, they prove that the tribe was around here. The two teams searched for a long time and finally found something. Old man, look at this. At this moment, Cecil picked up a strand of golden hair. Gru stared at it for a long time, sniffed it, and examined it closely. If I'm not mistaken, this is elf hair. Elf. That neutral demi-human race. No way. Cecil was somewhat astonished, suddenly understanding something. He quickly said, could it be that the elves helped the goblins hide? That can't be. Goblins were a race everyone wanted to eliminate on sight. If this were true, there must be a high-level intelligent species among them. It doesn't seem like hiding. I've scouted this area and found no caves. The elves probably helped them move and hide their tracks well. Gru said solemnly, starting to think. Elves were well known for their excellent concealment and stealth skills. Finally, Gru said, go find a flower butterfly. These butterflies love the scent of elves. After busying themselves for a while, they finally brought back a brightly colored butterfly. Once at the spot, Cecil opened the bottle and released it. The butterfly seemed to have a purpose and began flying in a specific direction. Follow it. Gru instructed. The group walked, marking their path as they went. Eventually, they followed it to the riverbank. Damn, they might have crossed the river. The butterfly has lost the scent. Gru cursed inwardly, scanning the surroundings. Without the butterfly's guidance, they were like headless flies. Cecil sighed. It's been almost a day, and we haven't even found a trace. Let's wait for Goblin Slayer to find them, and we'll act first. They couldn't find them, but Goblin Slayer might have a way. Gru, however, didn't want to work with that guy, even if it meant taking advantage. HMPH, it's unnecessary. Look at the edge of the forest across the river. They saw a big goblin wandering at the forest's edge. Upon seeing Cecil and his group, it turned and ran into the forest. Chase it. Chapter 36. Perverse Goblin Virtue. TL. Sungman. Upon seeing the goblin, Cecil and his companions immediately tensed up. They waded through the river without hesitation, pursuing into the forest on the other side. On the other side, Lin Tian's lips curled into a smile. Very good, the prey has taken the bait, though it seems to be aiming to be the oriole after the cicada. In the dense forest behind, a mysterious figure in heavy armor approached slowly. The figure reached the riverbank. Upon seeing who it was, Lin Tian frowned slightly. In his plan, he intended to deal with those two idiots first, but he didn't expect Goblin Slayer to follow as well. At this moment, Goblin Slayer emitted strange noises from his mouth. It sounded like he was very pleased. Extremely excited and thrilled. Great, he, wonderful, so beautiful. Under that armor, his eyes were glowing. This confused Lin Tian, as this guy having a mental orgasm, what's he laughing at? Goblin Slayer then untied the weapon on his back and slowly removed that mysterious helmet with his hand. The revealed appearance wasn't that of a bearded man or a scar-faced brute. Instead, it was a striking woman with jade-like fair skin and slightly curly long hair. Her deep green eyes were like a lush, enchanting forest. Her red lips and white teeth were just like an angel from a medieval painting. However, upon closer inspection, one could notice her ears were slightly pointed. Lin Tian thought his eyes were deceiving him. No way. A woman, wearing such heavy armor just to conceal her gender. And what's with those ears? Immediately after, Goblin Slayer started removing her leg armor. Those legs were so beautiful they took one's breath away, too white and long, with clearly defined muscle lines. Probably developed from years of wearing heavy armor, they were as exceptionally beautiful as ancient Roman sculptures. Bang! When the heavy chest armor hit the ground, what came into view was a bra bound with circles of white bandages, exposing her graceful collarbones and navel. Bandages. This hits my kink too hard. Can't imagine how fragrant this person must be. I must capture her and make her my exclusive breeding tool. Lin Tian swallowed, tempted to act immediately to subdue her. But in the end, reason triumphed over desire. Her strength was unknown, and he didn't dare to act rashly. Better to deal with those two idiots ahead first. He even suspected she had discovered him and was deliberately trying to lure him out. At this moment, Goblin Slayer had shed all her clothes, like a fallen angel bathing in the river. She started washing every part of her body in the clear river water. She was like a scorching pure white lotus, making one's blood boil. Lin Tian had never felt this way before, as if he were mesmerized by her. After watching for a while, he finally chose to leave, as the fight ahead was about to start. What kind of intelligent variant is this? I really want to have a good taste tilde. In the river, Goblin Slayer muttered to herself expectantly. Her eyes were full of longing, her expression excited and hard to contain. Her face had turned red. Ellipsis. That big goblin was still running wildly, only stopping after covering several dozen miles in one go, collapsing from exhaustion. He ran so far to create a misleading impression, making everyone think the tribe was in the forest several dozen miles across the river. Damn it. Is that guy a dog? Running so fast and so far. Gru couldn't help cursing, even the carnivorous horses couldn't catch up. Fortunately, the carnivorous horses had far more endurance than goblins. Cecil's nerves tightened. He stopped. Everyone, be careful, the goblin tribe must be nearby. Hearing this, everyone became vigilant. Suddenly, the sound of something cutting through the air rang out. Whoosh! An arrow flew from an unknown direction, hitting the horse under Gru, causing it to struggle frantically, throwing him off in the process. Gru got up and wielded his red crystal magic staff, launching an attack towards the dense forest ahead. Boom! A violent explosion occurred, accompanied by blazing flames. Boom, boom, boom. One after another, wild blasts shattered most of the surrounding trees, opening up the view. Cecil quickly shouted, Careful. Goblins are attacking. Gobu Kwang stood up from behind the bushes, holding a black iron sword and a large battle axe, which were the weapons of Kasimov and the battle roar captain. Seeing this, Gru fired a fierce attack at him. Die. Flames instantly engulfed Gobu Kwang's massive form. That guy is likely a hero variant. Focus fire. Gru continued shouting. The Grey Hat members all used fireball magic, bombarding Gobu Kwang ferociously. If it were a human, not even ashes would remain. Cecil felt a bit embarrassed watching. That's enough, old man Gru, that guy has long been reduced to ashes. However, when the flames dissipated, Gobu Kwang stood there unscathed. His 4 hands were raised in front of him, and combined with the blocking battle axe, he was almost unharmed. Only the skin on his 4 hands had peeled back, looking quite painful. Instantly, Gru's heart trembled. What? He isn't dead. It seems he is indeed a hero variant. Keep attacking. From a distance, on a large rock, Goblin Slayer stood straight, observing everything ahead. She couldn't help but sneer. They don't even know that 4-handed goblins have magic resistance. They'll probably all meet their end here. Look around. Goblins are approaching, and they're all big variants. At this moment, Cecil exclaimed. A group of heavily armed big goblins was rapidly approaching, at least dozens of them. Gru then realized they were surrounded. Damn it. Why do these goblins have iron armor and iron swords? We must not let them get close. Cecil, it's up to you now. High-level magic life spring. Immediately, he activated his skill, creating a spring emitting blue light at everyone's feet. In this area, they could continuously recover their strength. It was equivalent to sustained mana regeneration, allowing for continuous spellcasting. Cecil and his team guarded the group of Grey Hat mages. Mid-tier magic ice spike. Mid-tier magic quicksand field. Mid-tier magic rain of retribution. For a moment, all sorts of dazzling magical attacks appeared. There was ice, water, sand, fire, and so on. At Novelban at. They truly managed to suppress the group of big goblins, preventing them from approaching. However, only 3 had died so far. Because it was a wheel battle, 1 or 200 fully armed big goblins took turns surrounding and approaching. The injured ones would retreat behind the big rocks for treatment by Ifreya. Once healed, they would continue fighting. But this was not a sustainable method. Lin Tian instructed, Gobu Tian, try to create an opportunity for Gobu Kwang to charge in. Yes, boss. From the top of a large tree, Gobu Tian descended directly from the sky. Kekaki. He jumped onto Gru's head, who was casting life spring. He continuously tore at Gru's face with his claws, making it a bloody mess in an instant. Gru screamed in pain and quickly interrupted his spell, high-level shield. Bang! A shockwave erupted from him, forming a blue shield that blasted Gobu Tian away. But it also created an opportunity for Gobu Kwang and his companions. Mindless charge. Gobu Kwang roared, constantly swinging the weapons in his hands. Cecil and his group were so frightened they visibly took half a step back, shouting, "Don't be afraid." Shield bearers. Where are the shield bearers? 2 knights pulled out large silver shields from their backs. Clang. A harsh sound of metal collision rang out, actually blocking Gobu Kwang. But it only blocked Gobu Kwang. Everyone else was instantly overwhelmed by a large number of goblins. Screams echoed. Seeing the dire situation, Cecil placed his longsword before him and began chanting, "Holy Lord, I shall use your power to drive out the demons." Super-level magic holy light enchantment. Swish. The ordinary longsword was instantly covered in a golden holy light. It now looked like a 2-meter-long golden greatsword. Your Highness, save me. A knight was pinned down by a goblin, who was frantically tearing at his armor. Seeing the exposed flesh, the goblin bit into his arm. A large chunk of flesh was bitten off just like that. The big goblin was still chewing when suddenly, the holy light-covered longsword pierced through it. The goblin lost all reaction. Cecil commanded, "Everyone, gather around me. Don't scatter. Old man Gru, how long until your attack magic is ready?" "Almost there. I just got ambushed. Why didn't you pay more attention?" Gru could no longer worry about attack magic, first casting healing magic to heal the wounds on his face. Any later and it would have been too late. Cecil's blizzard heroes finally reacted. They began using the blizzard formation. 7 people formed a hexagonal snowflake shape. In the center was another healing-type paladin in the team, responsible for restoring everyone's strength. And Gru and the other mages who were recuperating. Cecil, holding the holy light sword, stood alone against the side with the most goblins, forcing the goblins to stay away. Oh, a paladin, quite unexpected. From a distance, Goblin Slayer spoke in surprise, but then her tone shifted. Unfortunately, they underestimate goblins, such a beautiful and powerful species. Gru couldn't help but be satisfied. Indeed, I chose the right team to join forces with. I'm ready too, let's kill them all. He then reactivated the life spring. The Grey Hat members were ready to continue their unlimited firepower. Seeing this situation, Lin Tian couldn't help but sigh. Indeed, a diamond-level adventurer team, their level is much higher than expected. Qualified output, qualified defense. If it were any other goblin tribe, even with 10 hero variants, they probably wouldn't stand a chance. What a pity they came to the wrong place. Gobu Shan, what are you waiting for? As soon as Lin Tian finished speaking, a goblin covered in bone spikes and armor stepped forward. Boss, then I won't hold back. Kekaki. What is that thing? A goblin. Seeing Gobu Shan, Cecil and his team were shocked. It was their first time seeing such a strange creature. Covered in bone spikes and bone armor. Gru sensed something was wrong. His pupils constricted as he realized, damn it. It's a mutant variant. Focus fire on that mutant goblin. Chapter 37. Instant kill, Goblin Slayer's strength. TL. Sungman. Hearing this, everyone began preparing to launch an attack. At that moment, the ground started to shake continuously, as if something was about to emerge from below. The next second, swish. 3 sharp bone spikes suddenly burst out around Gru. It was like a barbecue skewer. 3 Grey Hat mages were immediately skewered. Help! Help me! My ass! My ass got pierced. Ah! After a few seconds of agonizing screams, the 3 lost their breath. Gobu Shan relished their screams and twisted expressions, taking a deep breath. What a wonderful voice. Boss, can I have more? Damn pervert, do whatever you want. Lin Tian felt a wave of disgust. He knew this guy was twisted, but not to this extent. He finally understood. Look at those chrysanthemums blooming all over the mountain Tilda. Seeing this, Cecil raised the holy light sword and charged first, slashing at Gobu Shan. Facing an attack that had a restraining effect on monsters, Gobu Shan did not even attempt to dodge. He blocked it with a swipe of his bone tail. His left hand transformed into a long bone spike and thrust towards Cecil. This guy is hard to deal with. Cecil quickly retreated, falling back into the blizzard formation. The holy light couldn't cause restraining damage to pure bones. It was too difficult to fight head-on. At this moment, Gobu Kwang led a large batch of goblins in a fierce attack. The magicians, terrified by the sight of the 3 corpses, didn't know what to do. They were too scared to attack, thinking only of using defensive magic to protect their fragile chrysanthemums. What are you standing there for? A bunch of idiots. Gru cursed angrily, preparing to use magic to repel the goblins. But then he felt a chill below. He quickly stepped back. Swish. Another bone spike shot up. Gru panted heavily in fear. That was close. Almost lost my chrysanthemum. Shame. Boss. Should we go all out now? Gobu Shan asked. Seeing their formation already disrupted, Lin Tian said, it's about time, finish them off. Roar. Gobu Kwang lifted the silver shield of a shield bearer and swung his massive axe wildly. With one strike, the shield knight's armor cracked. The second strike left him dizzy. By the third strike, he was split in half. Over 100 big goblins joined the attack. Facing this frenzied assault, Cecil couldn't care less about anything else. Run. Retreat. I think we've fallen into a trap. Why are there so many big goblins? So many. Logically, a goblin tribe should mostly consist of low-level small goblins. Those were easy to kill. But now, they faced over 100 fully armed big goblins. There were even hero variants and mutant variants. As Cecil and the others tried to mount their horses to escape, a volley of arrows whizzed through the air. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A barrage of arrows scattered their carnivorous horses. There was no way to ride them. Cecil's legs trembled in fear. It's over. I should have expected the elves would use ambush tactics, should have known. Then, he ignored the others and ran forward in a frenzy. Behind him, screams of agony filled the air. Cecil turned around and saw what seemed like the most tragic scene in the world. He was so scared he nearly cried, I have to escape. I have to escape. Dad, I surrender. Send the regular army. He saw 7 or 8 people skewered by Gobu Shan's bone spikes, avoiding fatal points, leaving them writhing in agony but unable to break free. They made pitiful squeals. He. Gobu Kwang, don't kill them yet. Let me play with them first. Gobu Shan laughed wickedly. Gobu Kwang shoved Gru onto a bone spike in front of him. All right. No, no, Cecil, save me. Gru's tears and snot flowed freely from the pain, veins bulging on his forehead, his eyes nearly popping out. But Cecil had no intention of helping him. He noticed something moving quickly through the surrounding trees. Too fast. He was quickly overtaken. Help! Someone help me! Cecil finally burst into tears. After all, he was just a 19-year-old who had barely reached adulthood. With death closing in around him, he couldn't hold it together anymore. At that moment, he saw a figure, a full armor figure that brought a sense of safety. Goblin Slayer. Sir, please, save me. Cecil stretched out his hand and shouted, his face full of pleading. If possible, he wouldn't hesitate to kneel before her. Seeing their miserable state was within Goblin Slayer's expectations, just a mutant variant. Well, it might be a bit interesting. Cecil used all his strength. Faster. Faster. He had to reach her side quickly. But disaster always struck faster than him. The goblin assassins from the bushes immediately acted, jumping on him and starting to stab and bite crazily. Fortunately, Cecil's armor was thick, so he wasn't injured, but his steps were slowed down. He stumbled, unable to walk properly. No matter what he did, he couldn't shake off the goblins, they clung to him like glue. His weapon was snatched first. This was Lin Tian's special training for the goblins, to steal weapons whenever possible. Suddenly, Cecil's vision went black. Gobu Tian leapt out and grabbed his face, his claws sharper than makeshift short swords. A few scratches destroyed the helmet. Gobu Tian opened his foul-smelling mouth full of sharp teeth, ready to bite down. As if having a buffet. Whoosh. At this moment, a dagger flew over, stabbing Gobu Tian in the back. In pain, he jumped away, twisting on the ground as if in extreme agony. Sensing something was wrong, he stumbled and ran towards Lin Tian. The other goblin assassins were also hit by daggers. All of them twisted on the ground in pain, as if they were trying to break their own bones. Finally, they let out a final scream and lost their breath. They died in twisted shapes. Cecil crawled to Goblin Slayer's feet, trembling. Thank you. Thank you. I will repay you. Will you obey? Goblin Slayer asked calmly, picking up the daggers as she spoke. Cecil nodded frantically. Goblin Slayer then said, if you obey, then get as far away from me as possible, you ridiculous child. What are you going to do? Don't go. This isn't an ordinary goblin tribe, there's definitely a goblin overlord. This is the first time I've seen a tribe where only big variants are fighting. Don't go. Don't go. Cecil almost shouted, wishing he could kneel and beg her. However, Goblin Slayer didn't care, really. I was worried there wouldn't be a goblin overlord. The more, the better, that would satisfy me. Then she walked forward with relaxed, powerful steps. At this moment, Gobu Shan and his group were toying with the skewered Gru and others. Facing their eyes, which looked at them like they were small barbecue skewers, they were about to collapse from fear. It was too cruel and terrifying. They wished someone would kill them quickly, the pain and torture were worse than death. Swish. Suddenly, a small dagger flew over. It stabbed into Gobu Kwang's body. He could ignore such an attack, casually pulling it out. What is this? While he was still puzzled, his eyes suddenly trembled. Intense pain shot from the wound to his head. His muscles bulged, and he started crashing around wildly, biting his teeth. He knocked over several big trees and then slammed into a boulder, passing out on the spot. What's going on? Gobu Kwang, are you crazy? Gobu Shan was shocked, and the other big goblins looked at each other, not knowing what had happened. Gru and the others noticed the figure in front of them, Goblin Slayer. They felt like they had seen their savior. They wanted to shout but didn't dare, fearing their chrysanthemums might burst. After all, science showed that when people shouted loudly, their anuses would vibrate with each word. For those with hemorrhoids, it would push out a bit. Lin Tian had noticed her arrival long ago but couldn't figure out what technique she used. Killing the goblin assassins was one thing, but now Gobu Kwang and Gobu Tian were down. Uncertain if they were dead or alive. Gobu Shan saw her too, swinging his bone tail and stabbing fiercely. Goblin Slayer caught the tail with one hand, pulled out a huge broadsword with the other, and slashed down hard. The entire tail was chopped off. Though Gobu Shan didn't feel any pain, he lost a weapon. At a nobleman at. Goblin Slayer, bored, tossed the bone tail aside, shouldering the rusty broadsword. Are you the leader of these goblins? She found it hard to believe. How could such a rabble of goblins defeat the sword Saintess? It couldn't be their strength, could it be intelligence? That seemed even less likely. Gobu Shan was furious. Kill her. With his command, all the big goblins charged. Goblin Slayer remained calm, spinning with her broadsword in a whirlwind. Several big goblins were severely injured or had limbs severed. Not instantly killed, but the strange scene happened again. The injured goblins screamed and twisted madly. Soon, they stopped moving. In less than a minute, 30 to 40 big goblins had died. Continuing to attack was just suicide. Lin Tian watched from the sky, his expression grim. Damn it, what technique is she using? The system shows her skills are just basic attacks, no magic. Yet now, he had suffered an unprecedented loss. In such a short time. The remaining big goblins were too scared to continue attacking. Chapter 38. I am the Goblin King. TL. Sungman. Clear the way. At this moment, Gobu Shan shouted loudly. So the goblins retreated one after another. In the distance, on the tree branches, graceful figures lurked, drawing their longbows. The sound of taut bowstrings echoed. Whoosh. Countless arrows shot towards Goblin Slayer. However, they were all blocked by the heavy iron armor. Lin Tian found it hard to believe. No wonder the armor is so heavy. It can ignore ranged attacks and even withstand magic. The arrows were ineffective, so the elves ceased their attack. Continuing to shoot would be a waste, and in a melee, they might accidentally injure the goblins. Come on, entertain me. Goblin Slayer said contemptuously, looking at Gobu Shan. It seemed she didn't regard the mutant variant at all. Seeing this situation, the people who were still barely hanging on felt a glimmer of hope. Gru hurriedly said, Your Excellency, can you let me down first? I beg you, I'm about to die. I have high-level recovery potions. With high-level recovery potions, there was still hope. But if he continued to be skewered, not even a god could save him. However, Goblin Slayer swung her broad sword. She directly beheaded him on the spot, cutting him in half along with the bone spike. Thunk. The others were frightened and tensed up. She actually killed someone. Whose side was this guy on? Quit your whining and just die already, to avoid more pain. Goblin Slayer said nonchalantly. Killing a person meant nothing to her. Unlike the legend that said she only killed goblins, she would kill anyone she didn't like, even humans. Gobu Shan's face began to twist grotesquely, and the bone spikes on his body mutated. The spikes on his back grew longer, the chest armor thicker, and his tusks protruded almost covering his eyes. The nails on his hands turned into long sharp spikes, with bone spikes around his wrist guards providing even more protection. Bone horns also sprouted from his forehead. Blood-red energy spilled from his eyes. Berserk transformation. A mad bull. Heh heh heh. Goblin Slayer said calmly. Gobu Shan, like a crazed bull, lunged forward. The blood light from his claws almost seemed to carve the space itself. Bang. Immediately, Goblin Slayer swung her broadsword, forcibly knocking Gobu Shan away. He slammed into a boulder, cracking it. In the next second, Gobu Shan had already charged back. His bone claws scraped the heavy armor, producing an ear-piercing zzz sound. After a long bout, they only left 5mm deep claw marks. It couldn't penetrate directly. Lin Tian observed from afar, realizing that using the elemental hand crossbow would be useless. Wind, water, fire, poison, all couldn't penetrate. The armor was too thick and heavy, even wind elements couldn't create an impact. Perhaps lightning elements could work, but it was autumn, and he hadn't heard a single thunderclap in a month. Facing the berserk Gobu Shan, Goblin Slayer didn't want to play for too long, so she simply grabbed his bone horns and broke them off. She then thrust them into Gobu Shan's eyes. The intense pain made him turn to flee. But he was grabbed by the tail again. Die. Goblin Slayer raised her broadsword high, ready to chop Gobu Shan to death. Seeing this, the other goblins rushed up. But it was too late. Without Gobu Kwang's violent output and Gobu Tian's sneak attacks, the other big goblins were at most super soldiers. Crack. She cut off all the bone spikes on Gobu Shan's back and shoulders. However, the broadsword only embedded partway into his shoulder and didn't go all the way through. Without the bone frame's protection, he would have been cut in half long ago. Lin Tian didn't just stand idly by, he gathered a large amount of earth elements and fired charged attacks. The sticky clumps of earth directly stuck to Goblin Slayer's feet and body, making it difficult for her to move. In this situation, Lin Tian pondered, should we retreat? But this guy has many mysteries, and is an excellent breeding tool. The mystery was why her dagger could temporarily incapacitate Gobu Kwang and Gobu Tian. Low-level goblins died immediately. And those ears. After much deliberation, Lin Tian decided to change his attack strategy. If melee, ranged, and ambushes didn't work, then use attrition warfare. At this time, Lin Tian appeared, riding a wyvern, and commanded, everyone back up, form a circle. Advance when she retreats, retreat when she advances. Throw stones if you have them, use ranged attacks if you can. Hearing this, Goblin Slayer was slightly surprised and looked up, a wyvern riding goblin. I knew this place wouldn't disappoint me. Lin Tian continued to use earth elements to restrain her. The other goblins started to harass her. Large stones were continuously thrown at Goblin Slayer, making her stagger as she struggled to stay upright. Goblin Slayer mocked, "Is this all you can do? Don't let me down. HMPH, it's not over yet. Cut down the trees." At Lin Tian's command, the other goblins began chopping down trees over 10 meters long. A few goblins lifted the trees and repeatedly rammed them against Goblin Slayer. Although the effect was minimal, constantly wearing her down would soon exhaust her. This lasted for over an hour. The goblins kept sweeping and ramming with the trees, bombarding her with large stones, and using earth elements to weigh her down and slow her movements. Finally, Goblin Slayer began to pant heavily from exhaustion. But the surrounding goblins were also almost too tired to continue and needed a break. Lin Tian proudly said, "I wonder how long you can keep this up. Underestimating the goblins will be your death." At this moment, Goblin Slayer lifted the visor of her helmet. He was puzzled, not knowing what she intended to do. Goblin Slayer picked up Gru's corpse, cut off pieces of flesh, and stuffed them into her mouth. After chewing a few pieces, she stuck out her rosy tongue to lick off the remaining blood and meat. She then put the visor back down. While the goblins were resting, she suddenly seemed revitalized, launching a surprise attack. Goblin Slayer coldly said, "Resting. How can it compare to directly replenishing energy?" In a flash, she was among the goblins, swinging her broadsword and killing one with each strike. Some were directly cut down, while others died from the mysterious power that caused them excruciating pain. The goblins who had the upper hand just moments ago were now fleeing in all directions. Even Gobu Shan dared not approach. But from a distance, Goblin Slayer pulled out a small dagger from her waist and flung it at Gobu Shan. Prepared for the attack, Gobu Shan watched it carefully. However, he had seen Gobu Kwang collapse after being stabbed just once. He hurriedly used his broken bone tail to block it. Swish. He blocked the first dagger but couldn't stop the second. Immediately, around the small dagger the size of a pinky, his veins bulged. The pain engulfed Gobu Shan, making him feel as if a force was devouring him from within. He rolled on the ground in agony. Even the bones on his body began to fall off one by one. Lin Tian thought to himself that he had underestimated this Goblin Slayer. Damn, what kind of person is this? She can recover by eating flesh. Isn't that a goblin ability? Given the situation, it was better to retreat now. Gobu Kwang and Gobu Shan could die if necessary. After all, he already had hundreds of breeding tools in a secret cave. He could quickly produce more goblins. To me, they are just expendable. As Lin Tian prepared to take Ifreya and leave, Goblin Slayer spoke. I can spare their lives if you let me see you. I want to see what kind of goblin can be so powerful. It's been a long time, 7 years. No, 10 years since I've seen such a clever and strong goblin. Tactics, behind the scenes control, dragon riding, controlling elves, and cultivating so many high-level variants. Such an existence was exceptional among goblins. In some ways, even the Goblin King had not achieved this. Lin Tian sneered, "Spare me that nonsense. Do you think I'll believe you?" Hearing this, Goblin Slayer threw away her broadsword. Clang. She wasn't done yet. She began removing her armor. She took off her helmet. Revealing her fluffy, slightly curly golden hair and beautiful face, she asked, "Is this enough?" Seeing her revealed, the goblins watching from afar were stunned. She was incredibly beautiful, the kind that stirred one's desires. But in front of them was a rose with thorns. Thinking was one thing, but no one dared to approach. Even those skewered individuals, and Cecil, were dumbfounded. A woman. Goblin Slayer is actually a woman. Seeing this, Lin Tian was completely bewildered. What was this woman up to? She had discarded her sword and helmet. Now Lin Tian was confident he could subdue her, using poison elements to accurately hit her head. However, she mentioned sparing Gobu Shan and others, which meant there was still hope. He signaled Xiao Huan to slowly land at Nobleban at. Preparing to negotiate with her. Goblin Slayer's breath became rapid and heated, her beautiful face flushed. She looked as if she was on the verge of a climax. Huff, huff, what kind of goblin are you? Finally, Lin Tian dismounted from the dragon, standing about 10 meters away from her. What? Seeing Lin Tian's appearance, Goblin Slayer's expression changed instantly. From ecstatic and excited to shocked and confused. Impossible, how can you be a low-level goblin? As you wished, satisfied. Now save the one over there, and the other goblins too. Lin Tian said coldly. But Goblin Slayer tilted her head, looking puzzled, unable to accept this. How can this be? Impossible, impossible. She looked quite cute like this. But there was no time to waste. Gobushan was convulsing and foaming at the mouth. Are you playing with me? Lin Tian's eyes were filled with murderous intent, ready to act immediately. Reluctantly, Goblin Slayer took out a small bottle containing bright red liquid. She walked over to Gobushan and dripped a drop into his mouth. Soon, he calmed down, just lying on the ground gasping for breath, unable to move. She then went to Gobu Kwang and Gobu Tian, giving each a drop of the liquid. Lin Tian frowned, asking suspiciously, are you a witch? What kind of disgusting sorcery is this? It seemed like she was using witchcraft. Witchcraft. HMPH, who uses that stuff? I am the Goblin King. Goblin Slayer stopped and looked at Lin Tian with determination, saying each word clearly. Chapter 39. Goblin Slayer's True Identity. TL. Sungman. Goblin King. Hearing these words, Lin Tian almost felt his brain shrink. The woman in front of him was the Goblin King. What nonsense. Seeing his exaggerated reaction, Goblin Slayer smiled lightly. Just teasing you. Do you want to know my true identity? Follow me to the grove for a more intimate conversation, and I'll tell you. Lin Tian's intuition told him that this woman was terrifying and definitely not someone to mess with. Going into the grove, he estimated that she might eat him alive. After all, she had just eaten a person. I know what you're afraid of. Yes, I am the Goblin Slayer. I love hunting powerful goblins and mating with them. After mating, I kill them. It's been almost 10 years, and I haven't met a goblin worthy of me. But you have that qualification. Goblin Slayer spoke seriously, her eyes again revealing a surging desire. She was like a succubus. Lin Tian swallowed hard, but this woman's identity was too complicated and unknown. Mating was fine, but he had to poison her first. Goblin Slayer continued, although you are in the form of a low-level goblin, you possess wisdom comparable to a Goblin King. It really excites me. Please, agree to this. Give yourself to me. Let me possess you. As she spoke, she began to move towards Lin Tian. Damn, is she crazy or doing this on purpose? Lin Tian was so frightened that he kept retreating. He didn't want to get touched by this thorny rose. What kind of woman would act like this? And she was such a beautiful woman. Lin Tian didn't even need a mirror to know that no woman would like a hideous pig like him. Goblin Slayer's longing and pleading eyes stared at him intently. She added, I promise I won't kill you after mating. I'll stay with you. I want to see what kind of being you will become. Come on, my dear. As she spoke, she began to chase Lin Tian. The remaining big goblins around hesitated, wanting to help but deeply fearing this woman. It's so embarrassing, being liked by such a beautiful woman but not daring to make a move. Lin Tian was almost in tears. He and the goblin circled around the small flying dragon, dodging like Chin chasing the king. Give me, let me possess every inch of you. Goblin Slayer shouted excitedly from behind. Her eyes had turned into heart shapes. From a distance, Leah and the others approached, confused. Boss, what's going on? What are you standing there for? Help me. This woman is crazy. Lin Tian hurriedly called for help. Seeing the situation, Leah felt a bit awkward. But boss, you don't seem to be in any danger. Isn't mating with other species what you love? Just try it. At this time, Gobu Shan and Gobu Kwang had already woken up. Seeing that calling Leah was useless, Lin Tian shouted, you guys, quickly stop this human for me. Boss, don't harm my master. Come at me if you have to. Gobu Kwang woke up, shook his head vigorously, and rushed over as soon as he saw the situation. Hearing this, Lin Tian felt a bit displeased. Even if he had to die, he couldn't let this big fool have it easy. However, Gobu Kwang, who had rushed up, suddenly froze. He stood there mechanically, not moving. Even Gobu Shan and Gobu Tian, who had gotten up, did the same. Lin Tian sensed something was wrong, very wrong. What are you idiots standing there for? Are you all brainless? Don't bother. They're under my control now, hee hee. Goblin Slayer even let out a villainous laugh. Lin Tian was on the verge of tears. He understood now. He had become the victim, right? Not long after, he was exhausted. Goblin Slayer caught him and hugged him tightly. Damn it, you crazy woman, what do you want? Lin Tian struggled hard, but he feared she would use the same method she had on Gobu Shan and the others. He couldn't withstand that. He didn't dare to really fight back. But looking at the loving hearts in her beautiful green eyes and feeling her hot breath, he felt she truly had no ill intentions. No, it should be full of ill intentions. But this ill intention didn't feel malicious to Lin Tian. Who would think a beautiful woman wanting to ravish you was malicious? Got you, my adorable little thing. Goblin Slayer hugged Lin Tian and dragged him into the grove. In front of him, she began to remove her armor. She revealed her white body wrapped in mysterious white bandages. Lin Tian's own desires began to burn, but he still asked, "Are you serious, beautiful?" For the first time, he hesitated in front of a beautiful woman. Goblin Slayer didn't say a word and entwined herself with Lin Tian. Outside the bushes, Leah and the others, including Cecil and the barely alive adventurers, were dumbfounded, listening to the rhythmic, soft moans. They had been fighting fiercely, but how did it turn into this? Their jaws almost dropped to the ground, even their upper jaws were about to fall off. No way, why would Goblin Slayer do this? And she's such a beautiful woman too. Cecil held his head from a distance, completely unable to understand. Having lived in the capital for so long, what beautiful women hadn't he seen? None compared to this Goblin Slayer. This development seemed completely abnormal. More like a beast. No, more like a goblin. Desire above all else. In the bushes, Lin Tian couldn't help but reveal a satisfied and smug smile. HMPH. No matter how strong you are, if you're under my control, you'll just become an obedient puppet. But as time went on, he realized something was wrong. It seemed like the one being controlled was Lin Tian himself, not Goblin Slayer. Logically, the other party should become weak, with muddled consciousness, obeying his every command and cooperating with all actions. But now, Lin Tian was the one in that state. Outside the bushes, everyone waited nervously. After about an hour, finally, there was a rustling sound from the bushes, and someone came out. It was Goblin Slayer, fully dressed in her armor, her face flushed and radiant. She was satisfied as she picked up her helmet and sword. Seeing this, Leah and the others leapt to the bushes, only to find Lin Tian lying helplessly on the ground. Around him was a mess of unspeakable sticky substances. Boss, what happened to you? It's the first time I've seen you down like this. Leah said in surprise, quickly helping Lin Tian up. Faced with her question, Lin Tian was too embarrassed to say, "Just a mistake, keep an eye on that guy, I have a lot to ask her." How could he possibly admit what had happened? He felt he had been raped. He was the victim. He was the one being controlled. What the hell was going on? Obviously, he had sex with a beautiful woman who hit his sweet spot, but the result was utter humiliation. At this moment, Goblin Slayer stood there without any intention of leaving. Seeing Lin Tian come out, she smiled. "Hello, my dear Tilda." "You." Lin Tian's face twitched a few times. Then he said, "Let's go. And catch that guy who escaped earlier." "Shush, shush, shush." Several goblins rushed out and directly subdued Cecil. Gobu Shan also returned to normal, leading the group back to the cave with large skewers of meat. This battle had significant losses, all because of that crazy pervert. 50 big goblins died. Fortunately, the hero variants didn't die. Upon arriving outside the cave, Goblin Slayer still had no intention of leaving. Impatiently, Lin Tian asked, "What do you want?" "This is a goblin lair. If you come in, you do so at your own risk. I said I would accompany you as you grow. As for the consequences, as long as you can bear them, it's fine." Goblin Slayer spoke, tracing her finger over Lin Tian's chest. Leah and the others glanced over, quickly turning their heads to avoid laughing. It was the first time they saw Lin Tian so embarrassed. Annoyed, Lin Tian said, "What are you looking at? Go inside and hide, don't expose our location." Soon, only he and Goblin Slayer were left at the cave entrance. In this situation, Lin Tian knew the cave couldn't be hidden anymore. She probably already knew about it. Coldly, he asked, "Who are you really? What is that strange power? Why can you control my subordinates, and why did you just now control me?" He hesitated on the last sentence. If there were people around, he wouldn't have dared to say it. Goblin Slayer was silent for a moment, then said, if I tell you everything, will you agree to let me follow you? Tell me first, Lin Tian said impatiently. If she wasn't valuable, he would have already fallen out with her. Goblin Slayer thought for a moment, then said, my identity. It's a long story. My mother was human and was captured by goblins, a particularly powerful goblin tribe. You can guess the result. She got pregnant and gave birth to me. Hearing this, Lin Tian widened his eyes in disbelief. You are a goblin's offspring. But why do you look so human? That's the unexpected part. I am the result of the Goblin King's seed who violated my mother. Goblin Slayer's expression turned solemn. This was a sensitive topic for her. Hearing this, Lin Tian found it hard to believe. It was too outrageous to accept. The offspring of the Goblin King. What a joke. Added Nobleman at. As a goblin for so long, he knew best. The higher the tier of the goblin, the lower the chances of producing offspring. Mutant variants could hardly produce offspring. Not to mention the top-tier Goblin King. The probability was lower than winning the lottery. Goblin Slayer said heavily, I know you don't believe it. Even I can't believe I'm alive. But, I personally killed the Goblin King. 10 years ago, I was almost forced by the Goblin King. When he relaxed, I killed him with my own hands. Goblin Slayer spoke, her tone turning sinister and terrifying. Like a goblin, she killed the Goblin King. Though surprised, Lin Tian had roughly guessed that goblins had no ethical boundaries. And she could resist goblins' special abilities, not losing action capability during mating. Multiverse of Comics. Goblin King is a class of goblins. There can be many Goblin Kings. Chapter 40. The Path. TL. Sungman. I devoured the Goblin King and gained the power to control goblins. It was easy to slaughter that goblin dungeon, Goblin Slayer spoke with madness in her eyes. It was unsettling. Lin Tian never imagined this person's identity would be so complex. No wonder she was so powerful. But he asked, then what about that mysterious power of yours? How do you kill goblins so effortlessly? I can be considered one with royal blood. The goblin hierarchy is even stricter than humans. So, I mixed a bit of my body tissue into my weapons. When it enters other goblins, they experience an instinctive rejection. Simply put, it's a suicide mechanism etched into their genes to prevent any harm to the king and allows control over them. Goblin Slayer explained carefully. She possessed imperial blood, so she didn't have this suicide gene. With everything explained so clearly, Lin Tian considered accepting her. After all, she was essentially half goblin. No, she was practically a goblin in human skin. Assimilating into the group wouldn't be an issue. Lin Tian finally understood. No wonder you choose to wear such thick armor. It's to avoid being recognized by humans, right? But why do you call yourself Goblin Slayer? Logically, she was a goblin. Yet, she was obsessed with killing goblins. My mother was raped and killed by goblins. Of course, I want to slaughter goblins. As for choosing to mate with strong goblins and then eating them, that's a personal interest. Goblin Slayer continued. Forced by her biological father, she watched her mother being raped and killed. Indeed, it would twist one's personality. She had a human body but a goblin's heart. So, she chose to mate with goblins, equivalent to mating within her species, driven by instinct. This was why she had proactively thrown herself at Lin Tian. But she kept jumping back and forth between the two races. The goblin side didn't accept her, and humans couldn't possibly accept her either. Thus, a goblin in human skin was born, killing goblins. She did human things by killing goblins, while also thinking about mating with goblins. This behavior aimed to fill the void in her heart. Lin Tian looked at her, feeling a bit pitiful. In that case, join me. Seeing Lin Tian's serious expression, Goblin Slayer was stunned for a long time. She seemed unable to believe he would say such a thing, and from the heart too. A goblin would accept Goblin Slayer. But she had killed the Goblin King and so many goblins. Aren't you afraid of me? Don't you think I'm the enemy of goblins? I killed your king, after all. Goblin Slayer asked tentatively. She initially intended to manipulate Lin Tian and toy with him. Now the situation had become very interesting. Lin Tian shrugged, looking indifferent. What does killing the Goblin King have to do with me? You killed many goblins before. That has nothing to do with me either. We have similar identities. But I have chosen a clear path. A clear path. Hearing this, Goblin Slayer stood there thinking, how interesting, a gift from the heavens, to encounter such a beautiful creation as you, kahahe. Don't get cocky. Letting you join me doesn't mean I'll be dominated by you. I'm the one in control, understand? Lin Tian's expression changed, speaking sternly. Really? Then shall we play some more? Just now, when I asked you to change positions, you obediently did so, like a child being punished. Goblin Slayer said with an evil smile. Recalling this, Lin Tian felt ashamed and snorted coldly, let's not bring that up. Throughout, Goblin Slayer was the one moving. After some teasing, Goblin Slayer pondered for a moment, forget it. The situation in Bright Town is quite complex now. I'll stay there for a while and serve as your spy. You have such good intentions. Lin Tian said in slight surprise. Wasn't she devoted to slaughtering goblins? Now she planned to help them. Goblin Slayer strolled across the river, because you are mine. It seems I've also found my own path. She waded through the river, disappearing into the dense forest. Hope you truly have. Lin Tian watched her departing figure, then headed toward the cave. He took a deep breath. Phew, I really can't handle her. Fortunately, she increased my attribute points by over 500. Truly a woman with royal blood. She was different from Gobu Yu, who was purely a female goblin. Whereas Gobu Yu was purely a female goblin. He then checked his current attribute strength. Lin Tian. LV 55. Race. Goblin. Profession. None. Title. Blasphemer. Potential god, injected with royal blood, God's blessing. Health. 1600. Strength. 410. Defense. 470. Skills. Swordless Take. Keen, awe-inspiring 18 styles, flashback, grow and shrink. Equipment. Fine iron armor, fine short sword, elemental hand crossbow. Overall. 2200. Lin Tian was quite satisfied. Most satisfying was the extra achievement, injected with royal blood. Gain 100 life points. Old readers, please note, previous modifications indicate that obtaining new titles can also grant life points. Lin Tian then entered the cave. Boss, you're here. We were just about to start a barbecue. Do you have any of that seasoning you used before? Gobu Shan asked. Gobu Kwang laughed foolishly. Hee, that stuff makes everything taste better. Barbecue. Upon hearing this, the captured people showed expressions of terror. Don't kill me, I can still be saved. If you're going to kill me, just do it quickly. I don't want to be roasted alive. Goblin Slayer. That traitor. Where is the sword Saintess? Hasn't she recovered yet? Can't she save us? Father, I will sacrifice myself for the honor of our family, sob sob. The ones speaking were those strung up, including Cecil. The cave echoed with their cries of despair. It truly was like hell. Next to them, Loader, who was tied up like a dead dog, slowly opened his eyes. His blurry vision gradually cleared. When he saw Cecil, he couldn't help but mock, ahahaha. Cecil, is it really you? Cousin, you're still alive. Cecil was stunned, eyes full of shock. How many months had it been since he was captured by goblins? And yet he was still alive. Unbelievable. Loader snorted. Alive. You could die and I still wouldn't die. I will never die. Cecil didn't care. Hey, you look like you're better off dead. How pitiful, the once glorious Stantmont family has come to this. In the noble circles, it was well known that Loader had become a disciple of the sword Saintess. The Stantmont family had risen, constantly mocking other families about their uncertain futures. Cecil's family had never been treated well by them. Now, Loader's situation proved that he wasn't doing much better. You idiot, don't you realize you're also a fish on the chopping block? You'll definitely die before me, ha ha ha. Loader continued to mock. Indeed, he wouldn't die because Lin Tian hadn't tortured him enough yet. Hearing this, Cecil was puzzled. Isn't the sword Saintess your master? She didn't come to save you. Maybe you're too weak for her to bother. Mentioning that name, Loader's face darkened immediately. He suddenly roared without warning, shut up. Don't mention that bitch. That selfish bitch. She abandoned me for her so-called justice. Ha ha ha. So the sword Saintess lives up to her title as the guardian of the holy sword. Cecil was laughing. Suddenly, his expression froze. Because a terrifying scene was unfolding nearby. Gobu Kwang picked up a bone skewer and began sprinkling barbecue seasoning on a cleaned and prepared live human. Manipulating a live person like a kebab. The seasoning was a mix of wild mint, cinnamon, bay leaves, rosemary, thyme, pepper, garlic, chili, and ginger. As the person was marinated, Gobu Kwang licked his lips. After seasoning the first skewer, he prepared to season the second, planning to cook them all at once. Gobu Shan suddenly grabbed the bone skewer, a sinister look on his face. Hey, no rush. Roast them one by one. Let the others be filled with fear and despair. Their muscles will tense up, making the meat tighter and tastier. Added Nobleman at. Hey, you really know how to enjoy it. All right then. Gobu Kwang sat by the campfire, waiting for the feast. Hearing this, the other captives were scared to the point of nearly soiling themselves. That beast. So cruel. Gobu Shan began the barbecue. As the flames touched the skewer, it first burned off all the hair. Ah, please turn me over, it's burning. My balls are burning. The man's face twisted in pain, screaming until his throat was hoarse. However, Gobu Shan had no intention of turning him over. He used his regrown bone tail to brush oil on the skewer. Lin Tian couldn't help but feel disgusted. You pervert, who knew you'd even be perverted about barbecuing? Hee hee. Gobu Shan smiled innocently, a smile that was chilling. For goblins, the screams were a delightful prelude to a meal. Cecil trembled in fear, on the verge of tears, watching the goblins feast. He was almost crying. Though a diamond-level adventurer, the moments before death were scarier than death itself. Loader had become numb, showing no emotional reaction. At this moment, Gobu Shan's sinister, blood-red eyes in the darkness locked onto the paralyzed Cecil. Fear crawled over his entire body. Cecil quickly pleaded, "Don't kill me, I'm a noble. I can give you money, women, anything you want, just let me go." However, goblins didn't care about such things. Stop. Suddenly, Loader's voice rang out, decisive and strong. Cecil was full of surprise, slightly calming down. "Cousin, you." Lin Tian became interested. "Oh. You useless dog haven't spoken for so long, and now you finally have something to say. You're Lin Tian, right? Let him go, and I will agree to any of your requests." Chapter 41. Vampire. TL. Sungman. Loader was speaking seriously, appearing more clear-headed than ever before. Moved to tears, Cecil hugged his leg and cried, "Cousin, I'm sorry for berating you earlier, cousin. Hee hee, a prisoner dares to negotiate with me." Lin Tian showed no mercy and directly cut off one of Cecil's legs to roast. The paralysis caused no pain, but the brutal scene made him faint out of fear. A smile curved on Loader's gloomy face. "Listen to me, how about letting him go? The family will definitely send many people to rescue me then. Are you out of your mind? What nonsense are you spouting?" Lin Tian looked at him coldly. It seemed Loader's mind had completely collapsed. Suddenly, Loader became agitated and yelled, "Out of my mind. You could kill more people then. Devour more powerful ones. Kill them all. I'll help you do that. Are you serious?" Lin Tian still doubted. Loader laughed maniacally. "They all deserve to die. All of them. They didn't send troops to rescue me for so long and sent this useless guy instead, so they deserve to die. And that whore, if I could, I would help you kill her too." "All right, I believe you. Ifreya, heal this guy." Lin Tian agreed directly. He ordered Ifreya to come and treat Cecil first. Then he walked to the furnace, picked up the roasted leg, and tossed it in front of Loader like feeding a dog. He said, "This is your reward." A flash of murderous intent passed through Loader's eyes, different from usual. Immediately, he recovered and began gnawing on the leg. "Delicious. Delicious. Boss, isn't this letting the tiger return to the mountain? Our location will be exposed." Leah expressed her concern. Lin Tian gestured to interrupt. "Don't you trust me? I understand." Leah said no more. In the end, they arranged for a few goblins to carry Cecil out and throw him into the forest. Ellipsis. Bright Town. People knew that Cecil and others had joined forces to exterminate the goblins. They were eagerly awaiting good news. In the tavern, everyone was drinking and chatting. At this time, someone joked, "It's been so long with no news, did they all get wiped out? Ha ha ha, I'd rather believe a goblin can screw me over than that they all got wiped out. He's just joking, though it's unlikely, who knows? If a team of 2 diamond-level adventurers loses, we might as well pack up and leave." No one believed such a thing could happen. Just a few goblins, even high-level intelligent ones, were still just goblins. They couldn't stir up much trouble. For hundreds of years, stories of goblin kings being killed were frequent. The impression of goblins being weak was ingrained in human minds. The wandering hero said, "Don't think the sword Saintess lost, she only lost to herself. Diamond-level adventurers dealing with a bunch of goblins is no pressure, at least not for me." Bang. At this moment, the tavern door was violently pushed open. A bald man in simple leather armor rushed in excitedly. "It's over. It's all over. They're all dead." "What's over? Calm down." The tavern owner cursed. That was his door. The bald man panted. I just saw Cecil come back, missing a leg, looking extremely miserable. He rode a carnivorous horse and left Bright Town, heading towards the capital. What? Everyone's face changed. Cecil of the Blizzard Heroes. A young noble prodigy. He actually lost. Even the tavern owner found it hard to believe. The Blizzard formation can withstand an attack from an army of 1,000. On such a dark night, are you sure you didn't see wrong? No mistake. I even asked him what happened. The bald man took a deep breath and continued. He said they're all dead. Those goblins are demons. Don't go near them, and then he rode off. At this moment, the entire tavern fell into dead silence. Such goblins existed, beyond their imagination. They finally understood why the sword Saintess suffered a setback. The wandering hero couldn't help but exclaim, the grey hats are all dead. Old Gru, I remember, had some strength. He's the only one who came back, they must all be dead. The bald man speculated. At this moment, Goblin Slayer's figure entered the tavern, speaking coldly, that's right, they're all dead, only Cecil is alive. Goblin Slayer, you were in that battle too. Everyone was ecstatic. Thankfully, there was someone alive to get details of the battle. Goblin Slayer nodded. I happened to meet them, but unfortunately, I arrived a bit late. By the time I got there, they were almost all dead, only Cecil survived. She didn't understand why Lin Tian let him go, but she could only say this for now. The wandering hero asked, what about those goblins? I killed them all. Goblin Slayer said indifferently. The entire room was stunned for a few seconds. Someone started clapping, followed by a wave of applause. Sir, drink as much as you want today, it's on the house. The tavern owner said excitedly. He had suffered from goblin attacks for a long time, and now that the menace was finally eliminated, he was thrilled. Everyone marveled, as expected of the man known as Goblin Slayer, a true professional against goblins. Can you tell us more? Nothing special, just one mutant variant, 2 hero variants, and a few hundred big ones. Goblin Slayer said as she took the cup handed to him by the tavern owner. She lifted her mask slightly and drank it all in one go. Everyone was shocked again. My god, so many large ones, no wonder Cecil and his team lost, and there was even a mutant variant. While everyone was immersed in their drinks and cheers, a swarm of black bats flew in from outside, hanging upside down on the ceiling. Everyone retreated in fear, some grabbing weapons, spilling their drinks all over. The more timid ones even ran out, panicking like they'd seen the plague. It wasn't that these men were afraid of bats. Rather, these bats were actually people, or rather, vampires. They were the cold-blooded mercenaries. On the ceiling, a bat with blood-red teeth spoke. Goblin Slayer, you said there were hundreds of big variants. The leader of this tribe couldn't just be a mere mutant variant. Did you find their nest? Goblins hide very well. At Nobleman at. Hearing this, everyone realized the truth. Indeed, with hundreds of big variants, there had to be thousands of low-level goblins. The leader had to be an overlord-level being. If looks could kill, the bat would have felt a chill down its spine from Goblin Slayer's cold gaze. She hadn't expected another troublesome group to appear. But suddenly, she smiled and thought, heh, my dear, I believe you can handle these guys, right? I didn't find the nest. After killing them, I came back. As that's so, well, you can leave the task of finding the nest to us. We'd love to join forces with you, how about it? The red fang bat said again. The wandering hero couldn't believe it, even the cold-blooded mercenaries wants to team up. I want to meet these goblins myself. Then let's go together. The red fang bat looked at him. The wandering hero smiled awkwardly. Forget it, I'm supposed to slay dragons, not goblins, and I'm not interested in bounty hunting. I don't like moving at night. Goblin Slayer said and left the tavern. The red fang bat was a bit disappointed. What a pity, we can only operate at night. Otherwise, Gru and his team wouldn't have met such a fate. Let's move out, my kin. Screech, screech. A swarm of bats flapped out of the tavern. They flew towards the enchanted forest. Ellipsis. At this time, a well-equipped knight riding a carnivorous horse arrived swiftly at Bright Town. After asking around, he found the room where the sword Saintess was staying. The door was tightly shut, and despite it being just after dusk, the lights were already out. The knight sighed, took out a letter, and slipped it under the door, then turned to leave. Ellipsis. Above the enchanted forest, the bats, being vampires, had the advantage at night. They had excellent vision, quick reflexes, and a keen sense of smell. It didn't take long for them to catch the strong scent of blood. It was coming from across the river, several kilometers away, from the uncleaned battle site. The bats hung upside down on the trees, pondering the battle traces. Leader, what do you think? There doesn't seem to be a large tribe around here. One bat asked. The red-fanged bat sniffed carefully, then its eyes gleamed with a sinister red light. Go back, they left this on purpose. Following the scent, they quickly returned to the riverbank. They hovered around a waterfall. The red-fanged bat smirked. The scent stops here, they're definitely inside. Let's go. With that, the swarm dove into the waterfall. Sure enough, they saw two big goblins patrolling inside. Bats. Ignore them. Stay alert. The two large ones commented, paying no further attention. After all, why would monsters care about a bunch of bats? It was nothing unusual. The red-fanged bat led the way, quietly infiltrating deeper into the cave, reaching the living area. Inside, the goblins were all sound asleep. They were snoring blissfully. The bats didn't act immediately, but silently scoped out the entire cave. The red-fanged bat was surprised. There are so few goblins. And only one mutant variant. Could we have the wrong place? This seems like a medium-sized tribe. The members were puzzled. The red-fanged bat was sure. No mistake, with so many big goblins, it's just as Goblin Slayer said. Let's feast. Drink your fill. Though goblin blood tastes bad, it's very nutritious. One bat said as it quietly climbed onto a sleeping goblin. Its sharp teeth gently pierced the skin, like an ant bite, unnoticed by the deeply sleeping goblin. In just over 10 seconds, the previously robust big goblin turned into a dried corpse. The red-fanged bat also drank heartily. Tonight, drink to your fill. The cold-blooded mercenaries had killed many powerful opponents in this silent, deadly manner. Chapter 42. Countess, why did your head start growing grass? T.L. Sungman. In a short time, a dozen goblins had already been sucked dry and turned into mummies. Hee hee, Captain, you're too ruthless. You drained those goblins so dry, and so quickly. A bat couldn't help but comment. The red-fanged bat glared at it. Hurry up and suck them dry, it's not interesting at all. Let's finish early and get those 300 gold coins. They had thought they might get to drink the blood of a goblin overlord or something similar. But in the end, it was just a bunch of big goblins, with very few high-tier ones. Under the cover of night, death kept descending. No one noticed a thing. The entire cave was still silent and quiet. Lin Tian was sleeping in a separate small cave, with Weiju, Leah, Cassandra, and Ifreya beside him. A bat carefully approached, seeing humans and elves, and couldn't help but feel overjoyed. He thought, this place is so remote, quietly drinking some human blood shouldn't be a problem, right? Because they belong to the Adventurers Guild, they had signed an agreement not to drink human blood. Even if they killed someone, they couldn't drink the blood if they wanted to maintain their status and work in the Lionheart Empire. So, these vampires became adventurers, earning money to buy blood. This bat looked at Ifreya's extremely white neck and couldn't resist any longer. Money is hard to earn, shit is hard to eat, drinking here won't be discovered. Driven by his bloodthirsty desire, he couldn't help but sink his fangs in. When his sharp fangs pierced the tender neck like tofu, instantly, a burst of holy light exploded. It directly illuminated the small cave and woke up Lin Tian and the others. Who? Lin Tian woke from his sleep, raising his crossbow to attack, but saw no one. Only a very small shadow flew out. Sensing something was extremely wrong, he ordered, you all stay here, I'll go check it out. In the cave, the bat had its teeth shattered completely, damn it. A holy nun. Why is there a holy nun in a goblin cave? He would rather believe that someone had dug up his ancestral grave than believe this. But the holy light just now couldn't be mistaken. Captain, there's a holy nun. The bat flew to the living area's main cave and shouted urgently. The church's forces were like natural enemies to vampires, they didn't dare provoke them. Hearing this, the red-fanged bat, who was about to continue drinking blood, paused. Are you crazy? How could there be a nun in this cave? Everyone, be on alert. At this moment, a shout came from the depths of the cave. All the goblins got up and were on high alert. Lin Tian, seeing the group of bats, felt something was wrong. Goblins generally don't let bats into their caves, how come? As he was thinking this, he noticed some goblins hadn't gotten up. Upon closer inspection, he finally saw clearly. They had all turned into dried corpses. Vampires. Lin Tian immediately thought of this, shouting, light the fire. Seal the exit. Gobu Shan and the others quickly began to act. In the pitch-dark cave, a raging fire was lit. The goblins surrounded all the bats in the center. Lin Tian said, "Dare to come here to drink blood, I want to see what you vampires can do." "Captain, what do we do?" a bat asked, but showed no sign of fear. The red-fanged bat started spinning rapidly, forming a cloud of black mist, which slowly descended and turned into a human form. Wearing black light armor, with fair skin, and very elegant auburn hair. Lilith's eyes were sharp. "Since we've been exposed, let's start killing. It's just a group of goblins." As soon as she finished speaking, the remaining dozen goblins also transformed into human forms. And they were all women. The most venomous were women's hearts. Lin Tian scrutinized her, deciding to check her attribute panel first. What he saw shocked him. Lilith. LV61. Race. Vampire. Profession. None. Titles. Countess, Immortal, God's Curse. Health. 1900. Strength. 500. Defense. 500. Skills. Blood Siphon, Bloodthirst, Transform into Darkness, Infection. Equipment. Refined Light Armor. Overall. 2,800. Such high attributes. Almost 3,000. The remaining vampires also had nearly 2,000 in strength. Damn, how could they possibly win? Wouldn't they be annihilated? Lin Tian quickly changed his tone. Ahem, madam, we can talk this out, no need to be like this. There's nothing to talk about. Didn't you want to see our abilities just now? Come on. Red Fang Lilith sneered. If they had been discovered when they first entered, they would have fled immediately. But now they were all full of blood, their strength greatly enhanced, why would they be afraid? Seeing her malicious intent, Lin Tian said, "If we fight, neither of us will benefit. Vampires fear fire, don't they?" Red Fang Lilith sneered and snapped her fingers. All those dried goblin corpses on the ground stood up. Their eyes glowed red, and their fangs protruded. She had infected them all with vampirism. They surrounded them. Lilith continued, "Do you think the fire will reach us first, or will you die first?" HMPH. Hallelujah. Suddenly, a burst of holy light attacked. It directly forced Lilith and the others to retreat behind the dried goblin corpses. At Nobleman at. It was Lin Tian standing upright, with his arms outstretched, forming the shape of a cross. My hair. A goblin is posing as a cross. He actually shouted those 4 words, holy shit. Pickled radish. Should we rush up and tear him apart first? This low-level goblin isn't simple. A group of vampires was dumbfounded. A goblin knew how to pose like this. Lilith also didn't react immediately and quickly said, "Tear him apart." Lin Tian quickly ordered, "Everyone, hold this pose like me." When all the goblins posed as crosses, the holy light actually illuminated the entire cave at that moment. If the church's people saw this, they'd probably exclaim in awe. Monsters using holy skills to fight other monsters. Both sides remained in a standoff. Neither moved, unless the other did. Finally, Lin Tian couldn't bear it anymore. "This is pointless. How about we negotiate?" Lilith was silent for a moment. "Speak." Indeed, being bathed in holy light made it hard for them to move and very uncomfortable. "What do you want?" Lin Tian asked directly. Logically, vampires wouldn't specifically come to kill him, right? Lilith didn't hide it. "We are an adventurer team from the human side. Someone posted a bounty, so of course, we came to kill you." Damn, so I was on a bounty list. No wonder so many adventurers came to Bright Town. Lin Tian realized. Then he asked, "You vampires, still need to earn money?" He really couldn't understand what they needed money for. A vampire, displeased, said, "Don't we need money to buy blood? Do you think in the Lionheart Empire, we can kill people whenever we want? Guardian Holy Sword, Holy Church, which of these are easy to mess with?" "I see, how about we cooperate?" Lin Tian first canceled the pose, signaling the other goblins to cancel as well. There was no need to fight in this situation. Cooperation could be mutually beneficial. Seeing this, Lilith wanted to strike directly but held back. "How do we cooperate?" Lin Tian thought for a moment, feeling a bit embarrassed. "Don't you need blood? How about I provide it for you?" "Boss, they are vampires. They need a huge amount of blood every day." At this moment, Leah ran out, worriedly saying. Lin Tian ignored her. Lilith snorted coldly, "Your little bit of blood is not enough for long-term supply. You have guts. We can leave directly." She didn't expect goblins to exorcise demons. She had to admit defeat. Otherwise, they could have easily killed them all. "Wait, I said it's enough, and it will be enough." Lin Tian stopped them, speaking seriously. Lilith and the others looked at her in surprise. In traditional Chinese medicine, there are records stating that the kidney governs essence and blood. It's the most important organ for a person. To be healthy, you must avoid kidney deficiency. Hearing this, a group of vampires was confused and naive, asking in detail, "What do you mean?" Lin Tian coughed, suppressing his embarrassment. "It's literal. Medical research has shown it. Moreover, a type of monster discovered this special effect long ago, which is the succubus. Otherwise, why would they extract everywhere without harming lives or stealing money? To gain such good nutrition, who would resort to theft or murder? You know, we goblins lack everything but that. We can form a long-term cooperative relationship, ensuring you don't run out of blood to drink." Seeing they seemed unbelieving, Lin Tian immediately prepared to demonstrate. This was a conclusion of Chinese medicine culture, and Lin Tian firmly believed the effect would be the same. Lilith roughly understood. After much thought, she found this method feasible. But it had to be tested first. She reached out to take it. A vampire behind her pulled her back. "Captain, we are the Count's wives. Although he is sealed, aren't we supposed to wait for him?" "Yes, this is too disrespectful to the Count. If this is true, we can wait safely without taking risks." "Wouldn't that be better? Over the centuries, how many sisters have died, don't you know?" As the captain and the rightful wife of Count Dracula, Lilith had to bear a certain responsibility. Without hesitation, she walked towards Lin Tian. After all, it was just for the sustenance of life, without any further relationship. It didn't count as betraying the Count. When Lilith drank the blood, as her bloodthirst was suppressed, she couldn't help but feel excited. It really can replace blood. "Everyone, we no longer need to take risks every day, as long as we cooperate with these goblins." "No way, we should have discovered this earlier. Damn succubi monopolized this information since ancient times. Is this true? Let me try." A vampire couldn't resist trying. The result was uncontrollable. One after another, they tried, and without exception, it was true. The bloodthirst in the vampires' bodies could be suppressed. Lin Tian was almost turning into a dried corpse. "Leah, support me a bit." Huff, huff. "Boss, you've worked hard," Leah said with a mix of amusement and concern. At this moment, Lilith became serious. "Goblin, I agree to your cooperation. What do you want in return?" "It's simple. Just protect this cave from intruders. I won't make you go out either. It's perpetually dark here. You can stay unrestricted." Lin Tian spoke solemnly. Recruiting these vampires wasn't just because he had no other choice. He hadn't tested the vampire race yet. It was a great opportunity to improve the group's quality and gain attributes. However, he did feel a bit sorry for their Count. Chapter 43. The Sword Saintess's Tears. TL. Sungman. "Alright, I agree with you. I just didn't expect a low-level goblin to possess such intelligence to communicate this way," Lilith said straightforwardly. A trace of a sly smile flashed in Lin Tian's heart. It definitely couldn't be rushed now. To test it, he had to slowly develop her feelings. He then explained the situation there and made some agreements with them. Lilith and the others were arranged perfectly, to the point where they felt a bit moved. "I appreciate your actions. As long as the invaders in your cave aren't too strong, we will do our best to help," Lilith said. "Then, here's to a pleasant cooperation." Lin Tian extended his hand. At that moment, Lilith's expression showed a surprising change. Human-like habits. Although she was a vampire, she had been human before becoming one. Lilith then added, "No wonder the Sword Saintess was driven to isolation by you. Of course, we mean strong opponents like her." "I understand. By the way, what's the deal with the Count you mentioned?" Lin Tian asked tentatively. After all, it was akin to cuckolding someone's wife, and several at that. If he was very strong and came for revenge, it would be disastrous. Lilith's face showed obvious sadness as she said, "He is our husband, a vampire who has lived for thousands of years. Unfortunately, he is imprisoned in the temple by the church. The church spared us from punishment as we were forced to become vampires." Upon hearing this, Lin Tian roughly understood. Since he was imprisoned by the Holy Church, there was no need to worry about him escaping for now. Lin Tian looked at her and said with concern, "Don't worry, when I become strong enough, I'll go overthrow the church. You see, even a saintess of the church has been completely subdued by me." "Really? Really?" Lilith's face showed the expression of a virtuous wife, not expecting someone to be willing to help her husband. Lin Tian nodded. "Absolutely true. You're also tired. Go rest now." He then supported her delicate, fair hand and led her into a small cave. The vampires behind them looked at Lin Tian differently. After Lin Tian left, he heard the group of vampires discussing. Oh my, how can I see romance and responsibility in a goblin? Seriously, I could cry, who understands? After wandering for hundreds of years, now given a place to settle by a goblin. Madam, don't you think he is reliable? The group of vampires, being women, immediately switched to gossip mode. Lilith, however, remained steadfast. Stop it. We belong to the Count, we can't do this. If anyone talks about not waiting for the Count to come out, I can't help her. At the cave entrance, Lin Tian slowly revealed a smug smile. This was the charm of a virtuous wife. Maintaining chastity, resisting strongly, but ultimately falling step by step into the clutches, unable to extricate herself. It was almost like gaining a virgin bride. Lin Tian left the small cave with a wicked smile, planning to take a nap. For now, there was no rush. At Nobleman at. Ellipsis. In Bright Town, the tavern was brightly lit all night. Many people stayed up, waiting for news from the cold-blooded mercenaries. But by dawn, there was no news. The tavern owner sighed, I think they failed too. Everyone go rest, I can't hold on any longer. If you want to drink, serve yourselves and remember to pay. Upon hearing this, the others didn't show any sign of fatigue. Instead, they were filled with fear. They couldn't accept the repeated defeats. Even the vampires, who were immortal, had failed. Only holy attacks could cause fatal damage to them. Slowly, everyone's eyes turned to the wandering hero. He was now the only diamond-level adventurer here. Feeling the pressure of their gazes, the wandering hero quickly said, Why are you all looking at me? I'm here to slay dragons, who cares about those goblins? If you want to fight, can't you gather all your strength and attack together? But how would we split the bounty? The bald man asked. Most adventurers, 9 out of 10, were in it for the money. Otherwise, who would risk their lives? The goblin disaster had nothing to do with them, it was all about the bounty. The wandering hero snorted, Do whatever you want, I'm not interested. Coward. A voice suddenly echoed in the tavern, then quickly faded. The wandering hero was so angry he jumped up, Which bastard? Am I a coward? Am I? I'm here to slay dragons. Goblins are trash not worth my time. No one in the tavern responded. Just when they thought the tavern had quieted down, several voices rang out again, Coward. Who the hell are you fooling? Diamond level. More like dog shit. This caused the tavern to erupt into a noisy uproar. In a corner of Bright Town, there was a dilapidated little house. The interior was simple, with a gray little bed, a cracked wooden table, and a single stool. In the corner was a dusty platinum longsword and a pile of armor. Because of the loud commotion in the tavern, the sword Saintess slowly woke up. At this moment, her golden hair was disheveled, not knowing how long she had been lying there. Though awake, she didn't sit up. Her blue eyes stared blankly at the ceiling, lost in thought. Suddenly, she noticed something under the door crack. It was an envelope from that mysterious person. After hesitating for a long time, the sword Saintess decided to check it. Throwing off the covers, she had already removed her armor and was wearing a casual white nightgown. Her slender waist seemed like it could be gripped with one hand. The nightgown only covered up to her thighs, revealing a captivating expanse of white skin. Her jade-like feet were as tender as a baby's skin, an excellent product for soaking in milk. However, there were faint scars on the soles of her feet. These were from when she realized she had been tricked at the broken bridge and had to sprint back dozens of miles within half an hour. At the time, she didn't notice her feet had become a bloody mess. When she got out of bed, the sword Saintess staggered and almost fell. She smiled bitterly. How long have I been lying here? I can't even feel my legs. She then picked up the letter. Upon seeing the image of a lion with its mouth wide open on the cover, she knew who had sent it. It was from the Emperor of the Lionheart Empire, Emperor Lionheart. 2. Alicenia. I heard your powerful sword will was defeated by a group of goblins. I know that isn't the case. You were defeated by yourself. I told you long ago, don't be too hard on yourself. Sometimes it's okay to go wild, to forget yourself. Be like a lion. Emperor Lionheart, Charles II. Reading these lines, a blue tear, as blue as the ocean, inexplicably rolled down the corner of the sword Saintess's eye. She had even forgotten that her name was Alicenia. Yes, I am Alicenia. I am not just a sword, I am a person. Alicenia muttered to herself, her expression subtly changing. From her ocean-like eyes that embraced her people, it wasn't tears that flowed. It was herself. She was crying for herself. After a long days, her gaze finally turned to the dusty sword in the corner. At this moment, the tavern was still noisy. The wandering hero, exhausted from arguing with everyone, was left breathless. He was being verbally attacked from all sides. An old man then spoke up. This coward, I've had enough of him. Hiding in the corner pretending to be a master for so long, and what do we get? A worthless piece of shit. Old man, do you want to die? Finally, the wandering hero could no longer bear it. A white ball of light appeared in his hand. He was ready to use force to shut them up. But then he saw a familiar figure standing at the door, tall and imposing like a mountain. The sword Saintess. The wandering hero quickly retracted his attack, forced a smile, and bowed. Sword Saintess. It's great that you've recovered. Sword Saintess. Everyone turned their heads, and upon seeing it was the Sword Saintess, they almost jumped with excitement. But no one forgot their respect, all bowing in greeting. In the Lionheart Empire, only the Emperor received the same level of respect as the Sword Saintess. Her path of protection was admired and respected by everyone. Alicenia gestured for them to be quiet. I am glad you have come to support Bright Town. Everyone, it's time to put an end to this. I will not give them any more chances to breathe. She had originally planned to deal with Dragon Island and then the goblins alone. Now, with so many people, it was much easier. Hearing this, everyone looked a bit embarrassed. Support. They weren't here for charity work. But since the Sword Saintess had spoken, they were too embarrassed to clarify. The tavern owner sighed. Are you still adventurers? If you are willing to help, you can drink all the wine in my tavern. Drink until you're full. All right. We'll do whatever the Sword Saintess says. Clear out those who threaten Bright Town. Boss, you are generous. Actually, we would follow the Sword Saintess anyway. Hearing everyone's fighting spirit, two more groups of adventurers walked in from outside. The leader was named Edison, dressed like a Western gunslinger, with a simple flintlock pistol at his waist. But he was a diamond-level adventurer, leading a team called the Gunslingers. The other group was also diamond level. Edison spoke first. I am willing to help the Sword Saintess uphold the path of protection. It's just a little effort. Count me in. Diamond level. Great. Someone exclaimed with joy. But some were indifferent. With the Sword Saintess in action, isn't it a given we can handle a bunch of goblins? Upon hearing this, everyone realized. They all sighed. I almost thought he was showing off. Isn't he just here to help out? With the Sword Saintess doing the heavy lifting, wasn't everyone else just assisting? Or rather, they were just freeloading for glory. No, this time we will split into two groups. One will deal with the goblins, the other with Dragon Island. Alicenia interrupted them. Edison, who had been deflated, straightened up again. Humph, who did you say was here to freeload? Don't team up with me. Sword Saintess, how should we split the teams? The wandering hero asked. Chapter 44. Goblin and Dragon's Child. TL. Sungman. This was what everyone was most concerned about. Everyone surely wanted to follow the Sword Saintess. In that case, the biggest challenge would be the journey. However, Alicenia said, I'll go to Dragon Island alone. You all just need to handle the goblins. She wasn't affected by the anger of revenge. Instead, she chose the best plan. In her mind, the threat of Dragon Island was far greater than a group of goblins. So many people dealing with goblins was an easy task. You're going to Dragon Island alone. That's too dangerous. Edison couldn't help but express his concern. Even though everyone supported the Sword Saintess, they couldn't help but worry now. They all tried to persuade her, this won't work. Half of us dealing with the goblins is enough. The rest of us will go with you to Dragon Island for safety. Right, you are the holy sword protecting the Empire. Nothing must happen to you. Or we can all go deal with the dragon first, then the goblins. They weren't trying to mix in some assistance, they genuinely feared for the Sword Saintess's safety. She was the Empire's pride. The hero of adventurers. Many troublesome monsters had been personally executed by her. They had all witnessed the ancient dragon from Dragon Island coming to harass them daily. It was obvious that side wouldn't be easy to handle. Yet, Alicenia insisted on her decision. Thank you for your concern. I am confident. In that case, I'll go to Dragon Island with the Sword Saintess. Everyone, although we had some disagreements earlier, please trust that I can protect the Sword Saintess. The wandering hero jumped in again, looking serious. The entire scene fell silent. Eyes full of contempt looked at him as if he were an idiot. Alicenia had no choice but to say, all right then, I'll go to Dragon Island with him. The goblins will be left to you all. If the sword Saintess arranges it this way, we will comply. Immediately, everyone began to prepare. Led by Edison, they included another diamond-level adventurer team, along with 7 or 8 platinum and many gold-level teams. The total number was nearly 200. This force could easily sweep through a super-large goblin tribe. At Nobleman at. As for the wandering hero, he puffed out his chest, almost lifting his nose to the sky, filled with joy, being able to fight alongside the sword Saintess. I will surely be promoted to epic adventurer after this, maybe even higher. Stay close. Let's make this quick, Alicenia ordered. They quickly headed towards the coast. There was only a small boat. The wandering hero said, "Leave it to me." He then activated a high-level magic skill, object control. He could use magic to manipulate objects. With this, the speed of the small boat matched that of a speedboat. This was the main reason the sword Saintess chose to bring him along. Steering the small boat, they sped across the sea. Alicenia took the opportunity to ask about recent events. Has anyone dealt with those goblins? Sword Saintess, you might not believe it, but Cecil, Gru, and even the cold-blooded mercenaries all went, and none returned. Oh no, just Cecil escaped, but with a broken leg. The wandering hero patiently answered, full of surprise. Hearing this, the sword Saintess was quite astonished. I miscalculated. I thought everyone working together could handle it. There's still a risk. Those guys are growing too fast. The wandering hero remained silent, not wanting to bring up the sword Saintess's sad matter again. But with everyone working together, there should be no problem. Thanks to her command, how could they obediently work without pay otherwise? Alicenia stood up, looking at the distant Dragon Island. Let's make this quick. Dragon Island loomed larger and larger. They could even see the wyverns coming out to hunt in the morning. Alicenia and the wandering hero stepped onto the soft beach, preparing for battle. The wandering hero seemed to enjoy himself. This place, who knew it would be so beautiful? Just too many flying lizards, what a downer. Roar. A wyvern out hunting immediately spotted them. It extended its sharp, giant claws, intending to grab and kill them, then bring them back to eat. The wandering hero instantly became alert. Sword Saintess, be careful. A dragon is coming. Before he could finish speaking, a flash of the sword. The massive lizard, over 10 meters long, was instantly decapitated. Its headless body twisted and struggled wildly on the beach. Dragon blood splattered far, staining the entire beach red. Follow me. Alicenia dashed forward, swiftly scaling a small cliff over 20 meters high. Intentionally exposing herself, she drew every dragon in to slaughter them. Roar. Deafening roars tore through the sky. They crazily attacked Alicenia. High-tier sword skill edge. Swish. Alicenia lightly swung her sword. The brilliant sword light seemed to be etched into this space. The incoming wyvern was sliced into pieces. Killing dragons was like killing chickens. The wandering hero was still struggling to climb up the small hill bit by bit. He saw the corpses of wyverns falling around him, the sky looking like it was raining blood. He was soaked, becoming a drenched chicken. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. Seriously, for others, killing a dragon is a lifetime's honor. What does she take dragons for? By the time he had exerted all his strength and climbed up in a sorry state, there were no more dragons flying around. Sword Saintess, how many dragons did you kill? The wandering hero couldn't help but ask in astonishment. Alicenia stood with her sword, shaking her head. I didn't count, just kill them all. This was her purpose for coming here. The wandering hero swallowed, estimating that nearly 20 dragons had been killed. Some were in fragments and hard to count. At this moment, on the highest dragon mother mountain, a relatively small dragonling flew over, conversing in dragon language. I see. I didn't expect that crazy woman could recover, especially at this time. The purple gold dragon mother looked somewhat sorrowful, gazing into the distance, as if making a decision. Now, nearly all the dragons on Dragon Island had been slaughtered. Only a few dragonlings remained, and the purple gold dragon mother had already sent them away. Moreover, beneath her massive body lay a black and green dragon egg. The purple gold dragon mother carefully kissed the dragon egg and said, remember, your father was a goblin, a very special small goblin. The dragon egg seemed to wobble in response. After speaking, she grabbed the dragon egg and hid it in a very secluded sandy spot. Crazy woman, let's make a decision. Whoosh. The next second, the purple gold dragon mother flapped her enormous wings, soaring straight into the sky. Alicenia noticed from afar, gazing at the sky, finally here. What is here? The wandering hero looked around, gathering magic in his hands to prepare for an attack. But he saw nothing. It wasn't until the massive shadow blocked the sunlight over their location that he finally noticed. Roar. But what came at them was a torrent of purple dragon flame. Like a waterfall flood pouring down from the sky. Unstoppable. Alicenia raised her long sword before her eyes, chanting, Sword Chi Tempest. As always, a powerful air wave surged up, forcibly blocking the purple flames. But the intense heat still scorched the surrounding flowers and grass, curling them into clumps instantly. The wandering hero fanned himself and the sword Saintess like a little brother beside her. The dragon flame dissipated. The purple gold dragon mother spoke in disgust. I didn't expect that woman defeated by goblins to climb back up again. How dare you show your face and cling to life? What happens to me is none of your concern, but since you threaten my people, your life will be taken by me. Come on. Alicenia faced the giant dragon, showing no fear. The wandering hero, who initially planned to slaughter the ancient dragon, now felt his legs go weak. The dragon was too big. There was no way he could be an opponent. The purple gold dragon mother didn't speak further, swinging her massive tail. Boom. The small mountain shattered instantly. As Alicenia dodged, she grabbed the wandering hero, finding him a hindrance and tossing him aside. Thank you. Thank you. How could I possibly block this? Thrown aside like a chick, the wandering hero wasn't angry but rather grateful. He continued to watch from the sidelines. The purple gold dragon mother continued her attack, her mouth starting to form a huge magic circle. The purple gold stones on her body began to glow, merging with the magic circle. Next, she launched a dense barrage of crystal attacks. Alicenia stood firm, slashing all the crystals aimed at her into pieces. Those falling around were like cannonballs, blasting dust over 10 meters high, scaring the wandering hero into running like a wild dog. Getting hit meant certain death. Damn, how did she fly up? While he was still running, Alicenia had already stepped on the incoming crystals, heading into the sky. Steel Gale. The holy sword in Alicenia's hand buzzed and vibrated. It shot out tangible sword chi. Like flying broadswords, the power was immense. A painful dragon roar echoed, rippling the space. Roar. The sword chi forcibly interrupted the purple gold dragon mother's attack, slashing several bloody wounds on her skin. In pain, she quickly dodged, her eyes full of reluctance. Alicenia moved swiftly and decisively, not giving her a chance to breathe, directly aiming for the dragon's head to pierce it. At this moment, on a beach, something seemed to be emerging from the sand. Whoosh. Digging forcefully through the sand, a black, green-spotted dragon head emerged. A small dragon slowly crawled out. It was about the size of a carnivorous horse, roughly 3 meters long. This was the offspring of Lin Tian and the purple gold dragon mother. It wasn't a goblin but had a dragon's body. Only the skin had some green spots. Chapter 45. The Dragon's Nest. TL. Sungman. Upon hearing the painful roar of the purple gold dragon mother, the little creature hurriedly began flapping its wings, as thin as a cicada's. It tried hard to fly towards the sound. Initially, it attempted a few times, only to fall after reaching about 10 meters in height. But within just a few minutes, it managed to fly. Such a growth rate was incomparable to that of normal dragons. Dragons were naturally strong yet relatively rare due to their difficult reproduction and particularly slow growth cycles. Especially the ancient dragons. While it often took months for a young dragon to fly, this one could soar within minutes. This was the effect of goblin genes. At this moment, on the beach on the west side of Dragon Island, at Nobleban at. The purple gold dragon mother had already been blinded in one eye and had fallen onto the sand, causing the entire Dragon Island to tremble. Alicenia, cold and ruthless, said, just a bit off. She had aimed for the forehead earlier but had missed and hit the eye instead. The purple gold dragon mother was now exhausted, unable to continue in her original form. She had to use the skill of demi-human transformation. She turned into a woman clad in purple biological armor, but her right eye was a bloody hole, very ghastly. Crazy woman. Today, I will fight you to the death. The purple gold dragon mother pulled out a dragon bone sword and charged forward, slashing wildly. Clang. A harsh metallic sound rang out. The dragon bone sword was flicked away by Alicenia, landing in the sea. Alicenia coldly said, stop resisting, it's meaningless. Is there only one ancient dragon on this vast dragon island? Logically, there should have been a male dragon with the female dragon during her reproductive period. But most of the dragons on the island had been killed, leaving only low-level wyverns. HMPH, What does it matter to you? What? Are you scared? The purple gold dragon mother, now half kneeling on the ground, taunted. She was now covered in scars, her lava-like dragon blood splattered everywhere. This was valuable stuff. The wandering hero had been collecting it the whole time, each drop worth many gold coins, forgetting he came to slay the dragon. He was slacking the entire time. Alicenia didn't say much more, her tall body as imposing as a towering mountain. She raised her long sword, ready to execute the purple gold dragon mother. Whoosh. Boom. Suddenly, a black fireball shot towards her from afar, exploding in flames. Alicenia was slightly surprised but unharmed. She looked over and said, "Is this a hatchling? Don't hurt my mom." The little black dragon hurriedly flew in front of the purple gold dragon mother, shielding her. But the next second, it was slapped away by a fierce sword strike, staggering. The purple gold dragon mother, both touched and worried, said, "Run quickly, flee to the place in your memory. Only there is safe." Ancient dragons had memory inheritance across generations. That place was the dragon's nest. Swish. As soon as the purple gold dragon mother finished speaking, a cold gleam flashed. A dragon's head flew high. Blood spurted 10 meters far. Decisive and ruthless, that had always been Alicenia's character. Especially when dealing with monsters threatening Bright Town. The purple gold dragon mother's head was directly severed. The demi-human transformation began to undo. Her body reverted to its original form, the headless giant body struggling on the ground, toppling all the surrounding coconut trees. The dragon wings kept flapping, stirring up a fierce wind. "Mom! Mom!" The little black dragon cried out in pain at this scene. Veins of anger bulged on its head, its abdomen clearly burning with fierce flames. It was gathering its most powerful attack. Annihilation Dragon Flame. Boom. It shot directly at the sword Saintess. Unfortunately, she lightly blocked it, her cold and resolute gaze then turning to the little black dragon. She was very kind, but only to those she protected. If anyone dared to intrude, even close friends and family, she would show no mercy. The little black dragon was already furious. Having just met its mother, it now saw her beheaded. Roaring, it lunged at Alicenia. At this moment, the wandering hero thought it was his time to act. Sword Saintess, stop. Leave this to me. He gathered a few white magic balls and hurled them. Each one had the power of a cannonball. But the little black dragon dodged them all at high speed, then spat a glob of pitch black, foul phlegm directly onto the warrior's face. The powerful corrosive effect instantly disfigured his face. Just as its teeth were about to sink into his neck, Alicenia kicked the little black dragon, sending it flying dozens of meters away. It landed heavily in the grass. Too strong. This woman was not his match. It turned and flew towards the sky, escaping from there. Under the healing effect of the potion, the wandering hero barely recovered a bit, but still had shocking scars. That black and green lizard. I want to stew him. He fled. Considering he hasn't harmed the citizens of the Lionheart Empire, I didn't kill him. Alicenia wiped the golden dragon blood off her sword and sheathed it. She was calm and composed. In front of her was a 100-meter-long dragon corpse. Cleaning it up was no pressure at all. After all, the purple gold dragon mother's overall combat strength was less than 3,000, relying on her size advantage. Her strength in demi-human form was about 2,000. How could she be a match for Alicenia's 4,000 overall strength? The wandering hero, gnashing his teeth in anger, tried to cover his embarrassment. Damn it, I messed up earlier. Really, I didn't perform well. It felt like my body was lagging, and my vision was freezing. It wasn't just the pain, it was also the shame. He had come to slay the dragon, yet couldn't even kill a dragon hatchling and was nearly killed himself. He could only say this to save face. It's time to go. It's been less than half a day, we can still make it to provide support. I want to personally eradicate these goblin pests threatening Bright Town. Alicenia didn't care and was thinking about the goblins she needed to deal with. The wandering hero nodded, and the two returned to the small boat to set off. But an unexpected situation occurred. As soon as he used magic, his body felt completely drained. Even after drinking a magic potion, his mana was depleted almost immediately. The wandering hero looked shocked. Sword Saintess, my magic seems to be useless. It's that damned little lizard. That dragon flame of his can erode magic. So what are you waiting for? Start rowing. Alicenia remained calm, tossing him a regular iron sword to use as an oar. The wandering hero, filled with guilt, could only row obediently. Rowing back would take 1 or 2 days. Ellipsis. Watching the small boat disappear over the horizon, the little black dragon peeked out from behind a rock. With eyes full of tears, it flew towards the corpse of the purple gold dragon mother. It cried bitterly, "Mom, wake up, Mom." It nudged the purple gold dragon mother's body with its little head, but to no avail. Suddenly, it seemed to remember something. Right, the dragon's nest. They must have a way to revive Mom. It then picked up the purple gold dragon mother's head, ready to leave. But the dragon's head weighed several thousand pounds, and its newly born, hungry, and weak body couldn't carry it. The little black dragon looked at the purple gold dragon mother's body. "I'm sorry, Mom." Tearfully, it ate the purple gold dragon mother's entire body, bite by bite. In the animal kingdom, many creatures ate their mothers. This wasn't surprising, especially since the little black dragon now urgently needed an energy supply. After eating, its originally 2 to 3 meter body grew to 20 or 30 meters. Its scales began to shine, and its wings became full. The original green spots turned into crack-like green patterns. They looked like shocking wounds. This time, it picked up the broken head of the purple gold dragon mother easily and soared into the clouds. Its speed was astonishingly fast. Following its memory, it flew towards the end of the sea. It flew over islands and continents. Whether it was snow-capped mountains or deserts. Finally, a tree that seemed to support the heavens and the earth appeared in front of it. Looking from afar, the trunk stretched for thousands of kilometers. The entire horizon was this tree. The canopy looked like a falling star. It was so large that it covered the sky. This was the world tree. The dragon's nest was beneath the tree. As it approached the root of the tree, it indeed saw a huge abyss, like a bloody maw. The little black dragon quickly dived down. Breaking through the fog, it finally saw the true appearance of the dragon's nest. Located in the magma layer hundreds to thousands of meters underground, the place was scorching with rolling lava. However, amidst the lava and flames, there were islands where one could stand. Many peculiar plants, trees, and small animals grew there. Looking up, it seemed like an endless sky. But it was actually the hollow trunk of the world tree. The little black dragon slowly landed on an island full of dead trees, looking around curiously at this unfamiliar and terrifying environment. But it didn't feel scared at all. As it was being curious, a pair of scorching, eerie eyes slowly opened above. Boom! Immediately, a gigantic creature fell. It stomped him underfoot like an ant. The little black dragon struggled continuously, but couldn't break free due to the massive size of the creature, only exposing half of its body and head. It saw clearly what was stepping on it. A brown giant dragon, at least 500 meters long, was curiously examining him with golden dragon flames. It laughed. It seems a little ant crawled in from outside. A dragon's scent. Whose offspring are you? The brown giant dragon asked. At this moment, ancient dragons began to appear in the air one after another, even densely packed. They flew and hovered. The immense pressure would have suffocated an ordinary human. Nearby, an even larger dragon, nearly 700 meters long, landed on an island. Its body was covered in deep scars. With fierce eyes, it said, "Grail, why don't you step on me? Instead, you're stepping on a hatchling." Grail was the brown dragon. Annoyed, it said, "Scar, don't think I'm afraid of you. Just because you're bigger than me. Wait till I grow up." It wanted to say more but was scared into silence by Scar's cold gaze. It quickly released the little black dragon. Scar's mountain-sized body made the little black dragon look like an ant. At this time, more dragons landed around them. They were of various colors and shapes, some nearly 1,000 meters long. They surrounded the little black dragon. All of them were examining him, wondering whose child he was. Then, a deep, beastly voice echoed. "Growl." The heavy voice resonated throughout the dragon's nest. At that moment, all the dragons bowed down, not daring to lift their heads. Chapter 46. Despair, Nidhogg. TL. Sungman. In the distance, a towering fiery figure leapt out from beneath a lava waterfall. Lava continuously slid down its body. It finally landed on a distant, higher island. No matter how stubborn the little black dragon was, at this moment, it felt oppressed. Oppression from its genes. The blazing body that emerged from the lava was grand and enormous. It looked like a volcano engulfed in flames. It didn't have scales like other dragons, but rather large red-black armor plates, with hot lava flowing through the gaps in the armor. All the dragons appeared extremely insignificant in front of it. This was the Dragon King of the Dragon Nest, the ancient world destroyer, the Flame Dragon Mother. As soon as it arrived, The flame dragon mother saw a purple gold head in the bushes beside the little black dragon. Is that for Biz's head? Who exactly are you? Hearing this, some dragons finally reacted. They looked carefully, and it was indeed a dragon's head. Their eyes began to turn fierce and violent. Especially Grail, who bared its teeth and glared at the little black dragon. Hurry up and answer the Dragon King's question. Saying this, he slapped the little black dragon hard, sending it flying and nearly falling into the lava. The little black dragon glared fiercely at that guy and then replied, Dragon King, that is my mother's head. I found this place through inherited memories. Can you save my mother? Such sharp cuts and a divine aura, it's her all right. Scar examined the head and sighed. All the scars on his body were also thanks to the sword Saintess. What a pity. Furbus inherited the old Dragon King's crystal dragon abilities, yet she died just like that. Who told her to stubbornly go to the outside world? So this little guy is Furbus's child. Then who was his father? At the last dragon's words, everyone was suddenly enlightened. That's right, the purple gold dragon mother went out alone. Logically there shouldn't be any other ancient dragons mating with her. The flame dragon mother was also puzzled and asked, Little one, who is your father? I don't know, I've never seen him, but my mom said he's a goblin. The little black dragon, new to society, didn't understand the evil nature of dragons. It said it directly. All the other dragons looked enlightened. I see, huh. Wait a minute. Scar was the first to question, what did you say? What? A goblin. Your father is a goblin. This was even more shocking than a bolt from the blue. Everyone was extremely agitated. The little black dragon nodded, but it didn't care about that, looking at the Dragon King. Dragon King, can you save my mother? I don't want her to die. Boom. At this moment, another foot stomped down hard. Grail said viciously and evilly, Little one, now is not the time to discuss whether your mother can be saved or not. It's about how you should die. Dragon King, let me eat him. Damn it, mingling with a goblin, it's a disgrace to the old Dragon King's name. The proud inheritor of the crystal dragon abilities, actually mated with a goblin. Fortunately, she's dead, and this little bastard must die too, the shame of our ancient dragon race. The little black dragon's words directly stirred up the group's anger. The noble ancient dragon race had been polluted by goblin blood. This was absolutely intolerable. The flame dragon mother pondered, feeling at a loss. The little black dragon could be considered the old Dragon King's grandson, and now that the old Dragon King was dead, only this unique crystal dragon bloodline remained. One must know, the crystal dragon had ascended to the position of Dragon King many times in the history of the ancient dragons. Finally, she spoke, Little one, do you want to survive? I don't. As long as my mother can be saved, I'll die willingly. The little black dragon continued to plead. The flame dragon mother, seeing this, felt a bit soft-hearted. Saving your mother is for later, but only if you can survive. The condition is to defeat the dragon beside you. Kiki, thank you Dragon King, for giving me some fun. Grail immediately opened his huge mouth and bit towards the little black dragon. Scar couldn't help but sigh. Poor little one, experiencing such things right after birth. Perhaps death is the best destination, otherwise, another world-destroying dragon will arise. The reason why the ancient dragon race now hid under the trees far from human habitation. It was inseparable from the influence caused by those predecessors. Whenever an adult dragon close to a kilometer in length went out to cause trouble, human prophets would say that the ancient dragon was coming to destroy the world. So they were often slaughtered by the entire continent, regardless of if they were humans, monsters, or other races and subhumans. Just as Grail was about to enjoy the dragon meat feast, the little black dragon, seeing the bloody mouth, surprisingly didn't hesitate. It accelerated and dived in. It startled Grail, who was caught off guard. While the little black dragon was stuck in its throat, it prepared to accumulate dragon flames to burn it to death. In the throat, the little black dragon saw the rolling heat waves ahead and began to accumulate its own annihilation dragon flames. It caused Grail to choke. Cough, 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 cough. Grail coughed frantically, his throat becoming hoarse, and he felt he could hardly breathe. Once the little black dragon entered the stomach, it started to bite and devour madly. The pain made Grail roll on the ground. He quickly shouted, Save me. Dragon King, Scar, Sin. Thunder Calamity, help me. HMPH, this is the king's decision. You have to win on your own. Scar said disdainfully. No one had ever thought that Grail would be counter-killed. In a short time, his internal organs were completely devoured. Due to the thick scales making it impossible to break out of the body, the little black dragon didn't mind and directly drilled out from the belly. It was bathed in golden dragon blood. It wasn't a debate. At this moment, most dragons had grim expressions, not expecting it to survive. Only Scar was somewhat pleased. Well done, little one. Dragon King. I survived. I won. Can you save my mother now? At Nobleman at. The little black dragon didn't care about anything else, pleading directly again. The astonished look on the flame dragon mother's face faded, and she pondered before responding, no problem. Also, from today on, you are one of the members of our dragon nest. Do you have a name? Great. Not yet. The little black dragon was excited and also hopeful. The flame dragon mother thought for a moment, you are a female dragon, so let's name you Nidhogg. After speaking, she looked at Scar, take Ferbiz's head to the roots of the world tree and make her a wooden dragon. The method of resurrection was simple. Just graft the dragon head to the roots of the world tree and plant it in the soil. A wooden body would grow. Ellipsis. Tian Quang tribe. After a day of rest, Lin Tian had also recovered under the crazy absorption by the vampire. As soon as he went out, he saw Goblin Slayer sitting by the campfire in the living area. Lin Tian couldn't help but ask, why are you here? Is there any movement in Bright Town? You are quite daring. Luckily, the sword Saintess went to deal with the Dragon Island instead of coming after you, but now 200 or 300 adventurers from Bright Town are out there looking for you. Goblin Slayer said while roasting meat. Upon hearing this, Lin Tian's expression became serious. He didn't expect the sword Saintess to still be active. There was indeed no pressure during the idle period. Now, he had to take it seriously. Goblin Slayer continued, however, hiding here won't make it easy for them to find you. As long as you don't go out and expose yourself, you can avoid this wave of trouble. What's the situation outside now? Has the sword Saintess returned? Lin Tian asked anxiously. Goblin Slayer shook her head, not yet. She's probably having trouble on Dragon Island. This made Lin Tian feel a bit relieved. He then made a bold decision, a carpet search by 200 or 300 people will eventually expose us. Instead, let's take the initiative and wipe them out in one go. Moreover, if they devoured this group of experience bags, they might gain the ability to confront the sword Saintess. You do whatever you want, it's none of my business. Goblin Slayer neither rejected nor agreed. Thus, Lin Tian immediately started the life simulation. To see if this decision would lead to a terrible failure. Life simulation system is starting. Current plot. Siege. With the sword Saintess regaining herself, the adventurers of Bright Town launched the largest joint siege. They checked every bit of the enchanted forest bit by bit. Thanks to your excellent concealment techniques, you haven't been discovered yet. However, to quickly enhance the tribe's strength, you chose to send out some goblins and expose the tribe's location. This move was very risky, you had to make sure there were no survivors. Soon, an adventurer discovered the goblins and found the waterfall cave. He didn't rush in but went to notify all the adventurers. The adventurers held a meeting, geared up, and prepared to wipe you out in one go and then return to drink. Things were developing according to your plan. Soon, those adventurers gathered outside the waterfall, ready to enter the cave. You had already set traps and guards in various parts of the cave, killing them one by one as they entered. Even the powerful adventurers couldn't withstand being ambushed and assassinated. After dozens of deaths, the adventurers began to change their plans, not daring to rush in. Option 1. Take this opportunity to attack and annihilate them, score 50. Option 2. Continue like this, kill as many as they come, score 40. Option 3. Negotiate for a truce, score 20. Seeing the system's options, Lin Tian certainly wouldn't choose the third one, as that would be letting the tiger return to the mountain. As for option 1, it was feasible and had a good chance to annihilate them, but the significant battle traces would be hard to clean up, which might be discovered by the sword Saintess later. The last option 2 was just a desperate measure. Since it was the life simulation, he chose option 2. Watching their actions, you chose to stay put and wait for their next attack. However, this time they got smart and chose to use magic attacks to clear the path. The goblins couldn't withstand the large-scale magic. Fortunately, the elves drew their bows and arrows, blocking their steps at the corner of the living area. Finally, it dragged on until nightfall, and the vampire Lilith decided to help. A group of vampires flew outside and attacked from both sides. A great victory. That's about right. Lin Tian wasn't surprised, and the development was satisfactory. He needed to personally allocate the experience to whom? The corpses of hundreds of adventurers were enough to create 10 goblin heroes. He then interrupted the life simulation. Chapter 47. A new hostile tribe. TL. Sungman. Ellipsis. Summary. The narrow cave entrance has a significant terrain advantage, but don't forget the help from the vampires. Score. 80 points out of 100. Reward. Life points x 80. This life simulation is complete, with a time progress of 1 day. Do you want to transmigrate to the simulation? Progress. Transmigrate. As a white light flashed through his mind, Lin Tian stood by the bloody cave entrance. The surroundings were filled with the corpses of slain adventurers. Lilith and her companions were drinking the fresh blood from the still warm bodies. This taste is exquisite. Human blood is indeed the best. Now, infected by the blood, they were terrifying to the extreme. Their fangs and claws were hideous, their skin pale, and their mouths were full of blood as they crazily bit into the necks of the dead. The goblins were so frightened they retreated to the side, not daring to approach. Goblin Slayer smiled lightly. Interesting, a goblin cave inhabited by elves, humans, vampires, and me, a half-human, half-goblin. Cough, cough, Leah, go Weiju, go deal with the outside first, don't let it be exposed. Lin Tian didn't dare to disturb Lilith and her group. He asked, Gobu Tian, no adventurers escaped, right? I've been guarding, no one escaped. Gobu Tian replied. Thus, it was a complete victory. Hundreds of corpses were piled up in the living area, forming several small hills. The smell of blood was overwhelming. Loder's pupils trembled, and he was drenched in cold sweat. The fear ingrained in his genes caused his heart rate to soar. He couldn't even manage a smile. Even staying in this ghastly place for so long, he felt extreme terror. It was something inherent in human genes, unavoidable. In his heart, he prayed, Father, and the Church, when will you come to save me? Cecil, you must deliver the message. He didn't expect hundreds of adventurers to die, even many who were somewhat famous. Now, he could only hope his family would go all out or seek help from the Holy Church, especially since Ifreya was also captured. On the other side, Lin Tian finally managed to handle everything. What remained were a bunch of experienced pact corpses. He then counted the higher-level members of the tribe. Among the high-level ones, many had died, and now only 15 were left. But all were at levels 47 or 48. Hundreds of corpses could easily allow them to evolve into hero variants. You guys come up and devour. Lin Tian called out the dozen or so big variants. Upon hearing this order, they were ecstatic. Thank you, boss. They grabbed a delicate girl's slender arm and bit down. The blood oozed out like peach juice, and they ate it along with the bone. It was a very tender texture. Then they opened the head and sucked the delicious brain. This girl weighed at least 80 to 90 pounds, yet within a minute, she was devoured clean. The goblin race was hated because they had to eat others to level up, unlike the human race, who only needed to kill enemies to level up. One goblin next to them had a peculiar taste and started with the fat ones. They sliced the fat belly with an iron sword. Fat oozed out, covering the ground, and the entire body looked greasy. The yellowish fat flowed out, resembling a butter cake. If it were grilled, the taste would be even better. But now, just having something to eat was good enough, so they devoured it ravenously. Because some adventurers were low level, maybe only around level 20 or 30. These dozen or so goblins devoured about 100 people and finally reached level 50, completing their evolution. The one who liked to eat fat was the first to start transforming, curling up as layers of green hard skin fell off. His body began to swell up continuously. He grew so fat he looked like a giant, his features almost indistinguishable, even fatter than Mon Chan, by a factor of 2. If goblins were ugly, then he was uglier than a goblin. Lin Tian quickly checked this ugly creature's attributes. Gluttonous goblin. With very high health, overall combat power of 1100, suitable as a tank. Possessed the exclusive skill, gluttony. The more he ate, the higher his health. He was a rare special variant. Most others were the most common hero variants, heavy goblins with overall strength of 900, and fully armed, they could exceed 1000. These goblins could wield large weapons, and if holding a giant hammer, they would be called giant hammer goblins. Compared to typical big variant goblin warriors, their height reached about 1.8 meters, and their muscles were larger. There were also 2 more, dark goblins, the same as Gobu Tian. They belong to the assassin class. Goblin Slayer remarked at this moment, to think there's even a gluttonous goblin, if he keeps eating, even the sword Saintess might take a long time to kill him. That would take quite a long time, Lin Tian couldn't help but ask. This guy looked like he could eat a lot. With so many mouths to feed in the tribe, it would be impossible to provide enough. Goblin Slayer thought for a moment, he'd have to keep eating for about a year and a half. A year and a half. Devouring over 100 pounds of meat in a minute. Lin Tian reconsidered. Since these hero variants weren't intended for focused nurturing, as long as they could boost the overall combat strength, that would suffice. There were still 200 corpses left. Gobu Tian, Gobu Kuang, and Gobu Shan divided 100 among themselves. After all, they were the main fighting force. After devouring, they all reached level 60, with a strength of about 1500. Gobu Shan's was a bit higher. After all, he was the only mutant variant. The remaining 100 were distributed among the other goblins, boosting the overall level somewhat. Unfortunately, the goblin's gene devour skill could only devour innate skills and not those learned later on. Humans were the best example, each carried unique skills. But eating them only increased their level without gaining new abilities. Ellipsis. When the sword Saintess returned, she immediately sensed something was wrong. The previously bustling bright town had become desolate again. She hurried to the tavern to inquire, "Boss, what happened to those who went to eliminate the goblins? Did they all leave?" Initially, she thought she had returned too late and that everyone had already left. From the wandering hero, she learned they had come to join the excitement. It was a possibility. However, the tavern owner looked grave. "It's been nearly 3 days, and no one has returned. I don't know what happened, maybe. You stay here, I'll go myself." Alicenia didn't hesitate. She mounted her carnivorous horse and headed towards the enchanted forest. In the tavern, the wandering hero cared little about the others' lives and said smugly, "Boss, shouldn't you give this dragon-slaying warrior a drink?" "Humph, you barely did anything. If you want a drink, pay for it," the tavern owner retorted irritably. Fighting alongside the sword Saintess, what help could he be? The best he could do was not cause trouble. The wandering hero, feeling a bit embarrassed, took out a silver coin with a forced smile. In the following days, Alicenia tirelessly searched for any sign of the adventurers, combing through forests and canyons. She found it incredibly strange. Why can't I find any trace? Did hundreds of people just vanish? Or did they flee? If she had to be serious, she preferred to believe they fled. Vanishing was almost impossible. So many people, not even leaving battle marks, were completely wiped out. Even if she fought, there would be signs of battle. She could only return to Bright Town in frustration. The wandering hero was still there, waiting for others to return and brag about slaying an ancient dragon. Seeing the sword Saintess return, he quickly asked, "Sword Saintess, did you find them?" Not a single trace. It's as if hundreds of people vanished. The confusion never left Alicenia's face. In a fit of anger, she grabbed a whole bottle of whiskey. She downed it as if it were nothing. The wandering hero couldn't believe it either. Hundreds of adventurers vanishing seemed impossible. He quickly suggested, "Sword Saintess, could there be something fishy? Do me a favor, guard Bright Town. I need to go out for a bit, no more than a month." Finally, Alicenia stood up, looking serious. The wandering hero didn't refuse. "I won't decline your request, but where are you going?" Alicenia walked out of the tavern and mounted her carnivorous horse. "I need to gather my former team and deal with those goblins. I refuse to believe goblins can stir up such trouble." With that, she kicked her horse and left Bright Town. Long ago, she had been an adventurer and held a legendary badge, though that was a long time ago. Since being recognized by the Holy Sword, she had left her team. So exciting. Because of a group of goblins, the legendary hunter team is reassembling. The wandering hero sighed. Witnessing such a moment would boost his own fame. Ellipsis. In the cave, Lin Tian had sent Gobu Tian and the others to check the situation and learned that the sword Saintess had left Bright Town. Finally, after hiding for so long, they could go out and breathe some fresh air. "Lilith, do you want to go out and have some fun?" Lin Tian asked. Lilith licked her lips, her eyes hazy. "No, I'm a homebody. I'm happy as long as I'm fed." Goblin Slayer, somewhat annoyed, said, "You eat all day, I never get a turn. Damn bat, want me to burn you with fire?" He. Gobu Yu forced a bitter smile beside them, seeing them about to argue again. She had witnessed such scenes too many times. Lin Tian quickly mediated, "Blame me, alright. I'll work hard so everyone can have their share. If not for his goblin body, he couldn't handle so much." Besides, Gobu Yu required mating at least once a day to keep her level up. Though he didn't know the world's level cap, continuous improvement was better than none. The elf Leah also needed loyalty maintenance, so she had to be fed. Luckily, only Lilith needed help among the vampires, or he would have been drained dry. I need to find a way to improve my body, it's severely limiting my power. Lin Tian sighed. Every night, they didn't spare him, often taking advantage when he was asleep. He woke up the next day feeling weak and sore. Could goblins even get such a disease? He finally muttered, I'll rely on the system to see if there's a way to evolve my body. Just then, a goblin sentry rushed in frantically. Boss. A small goblin team from another tribe is approaching. They seem to be coming for us. Coming for us. At Nobleman at. Lin Tian frowned. There shouldn't be any goblin tribes within 100 miles. Could it be the previous owner of this cave? He immediately ordered, Gobu Tian, Gobu Shan, get ready. We need to capture this team alive. They might be a special squad from a larger tribe. Chapter 48. 7th Tier Magic Ring. TL. Sungman. No problem, boss. Immediately, Gobu Shan and the other two, along with a few goblins, stealthily rushed out. Hiding behind the waterfall, they peeked through the faint gaps in the water flow to observe the approaching goblin squad. Lin Tian also followed to assess the situation. Across the river, on the grassland, 10 goblins were slowly approaching. They looked quite familiar with the route. And they were all big variants. The small leader at the front was even a hero variant. It was a special variant Lin Tian had never seen before. It was nearly 1.8 meters tall, with knotted muscles and yellow-black striped fur all over its body, somewhat resembling a tiger. Beast Goblin. LV50. Race. Goblin. Profession. None. Title. Beast King Hybrid. God's Blessing. Hero's Power. Health. 750. Strength. 240. Defense. 230. Skills. Beast Bloodline. Tiger Bite. Equipment. Bone Club. Leather Armor. Overall. 800. Its strength was indeed impressive, but Lin Tian couldn't help but wonder what kind of tribe it belonged to. Even hero variants were just team leaders. It definitely wasn't smaller than his own tribe, perhaps even much larger. Luckily, they didn't know how to cultivate and forge ironware, so this hero variant's combat power was far inferior to Gobu Kwang and the others. At the same level, it would be about 100 points higher in combat power than the big variants of the Tian Kwang tribe. But in a real fight, the big variants certainly couldn't single-handedly beat the hero variants. The big variants behind the Beast Goblin were even weaker. They wielded wooden clubs as weapons, had no armor, few devoured skills, and poor aptitude with limited crossbreeding. An overall rating of over 300 was already considered good. No wonder those adventurers looked down on them. Lin Tian and his group didn't speak, like hungry wolves waiting for their prey to take the bait. At this moment, the Beast Goblin suddenly stopped, its red eyes scanning the surroundings and sniffing. I smell a faint scent of blood. Boss, why can't I smell it? One of the big variants behind asked, confused. The corners of the Beast Goblin's mouth slightly lifted, revealing an evil, human-like expression that sent chills down people's spines. It felt like being stared at by a white-fronted tiger. With its beast bloodline, its sense of smell was undoubtedly many times better than a normal goblin's. Lin Tian frowned, wondering to himself, has that guy discovered us? Maybe some food slipped into the cave. Let's get ready for a feast. Finally, the Beast Goblin speculated, extending its thick, sticky tongue and licking its lips. It continued to walk towards the waterfall cave. As they got closer, Gobu Tian and another dark goblin struck first. Capture the leader first. This was Lin Tian's combat strategy. Immediately, they darted to the Beast Goblin's feet, slashing its tendons and injecting a large amount of poison. Roar. The Beast Goblin hadn't even reacted when it let out a painful roar. The group of big variants behind it was frightened. Just as they were about to attack, Gobu Tian disappeared into the nearby river in a flash. The Beast Goblin hurriedly snarled, enemies. Prepare for battle. The big variants calmed down, raised their weapons, and surrounded the Beast Goblin. With its tendons cut, it couldn't stand up at all. Boss, we'll protect you. One big variant said proudly, trying to show its loyalty. However, from behind the waterfall, Gobu Tian stretched out 4 large hands and pounced. It grabbed the show-off variant and twisted its head off on the spot. The spraying blood scattered their arrogance. They all abandoned the Beast Goblin and started to flee. When faced with danger, they didn't care about any leader, their survival was most important. Swish. Bone spikes shot up from the ground. But one still managed to almost escape into the forest. Lin Tian gathered wind elements and blasted its head into a mushy mess. The beast goblin on the ground gradually became paralyzed, roaring angrily, "Let me go. I'll kill you. Who are you? Wow, such lovely fur, and sexy hair. I like it. Like it. Like to eat it." Gobu Shan said excitedly, eyeing the furry goblin on the ground. Hearing this, the beast goblin's eyes widened. In fear, both angry and terrified, it could only let out beast-like growls. Lin Tian ordered his men to clean up the battlefield and had Gobu Tian patrol the surroundings for any unusual occurrences. He then took the beast goblin back to the depths of the cave. "Do you want to die?" Lin Tian coldly asked as he looked at it. The beast goblin was furious. "Get lost. Lowly creature, do you believe I'll eat you?" If it were someone of a higher rank, it might have responded differently. Before him stood a lowly small goblin, interrogating him from a high position. He couldn't tolerate it at all. Lin Tian wasn't angry but smiled contentedly and took out the set of torture instruments he had used on Loader before. He. Good. Hurry up and deal with him. Not far away, a blackened figure spoke. It was the nearly moldy Loader. Lin Tian frowned. "Noisy, do you want to try again?" The shouting Loader immediately shut his mouth. The beast goblin, who had been in and out of the mundane world, was not afraid at all. "HMPH, you lowly trash, don't appear in front of me. I'll tear you apart. It seems you need a little taste of society's harshness." Seeing that he couldn't get any information, Lin Tian sighed. The beast goblin still wasn't afraid. "Harshness? From you? He was a beast-like male. Was he supposed to be scared?" Ellipsis. "Ah, I was wrong. Please kill me. Please stop." In less than 10 minutes. The beast goblin was already covered in wounds. If he could kneel, he would have knelt before Lin Tian and licked his feet. His current appearance was quite funny. All his fur was gone. Lin Tian had specially burned it off. The cave was filled with the aroma of roasted chicken. However, he had endured all this without submitting to a lowly goblin. The real deal was the torture instrument Lin Tian had used on Loader. The true man's subjugation device. However, Lin Tian certainly wouldn't do such things himself. He casually called a few goblins with perverse personalities to handle it. The beast goblin was already in tears, crying like a little girl. "Please, what do you want to ask? Just ask. Boo-hoo. Hey, you tell me, he tortured me for so long without asking anything. Is this even human? Is this right? Bullying a newcomer like me, boo-hoo. Meow." Lin Tian shrugged. "Little kitty, you were quite stubborn when I asked you before, so I had to make you feel the pain." Then he got to the point. "Which tribe are you from? Where is your tribe? Why are you here?" The beast goblin answered truthfully. "I come from the enchanted forest to the west, the Beast King tribe. This was our boss's former residence. He sent me back to retrieve something. Boo-hoo meow. I was just returning to my old home, and you. Alright. Don't cry, little kitty." Lin Tian continued to ask, "What level of goblin is your tribe leader?" "Our boss is now a goblin lord, but he's about to evolve into an overlord." The beast goblin quickly replied. Lin Tian didn't expect to hit such a hard wall this time. The overall strength of this tribe was definitely comparable to a human city, very tough to deal with. But they had occupied someone else's old home, and the key was that living here was very comfortable, and he didn't want to move. He decided he would destroy them, making this place rightfully his. Seeing Lin Tian's strange and evil eyes, the beast goblin's legs trembled inexplicably. "Can you let me go now? Please." Lin Tian extended his finger. "Lastly, what did he ask you to retrieve?" "Where is it? I don't know either. He said it was buried in the cave he used to live in." Lin Tian called Gobu Tian and the others. "Quickly, go search for it." Not long after, Gobu Tian brought over a small wooden box. The beast goblin felt bitter. "Boss, I'm sorry. They are really beasts, too ruthless." Lin Tian slowly opened the box, and inside was a ring emitting a green glow. The ring was shaped somewhat like a skull's mouth, quite eerie. But he could still check its description through the system. 7th tier Fatu magic ring. A magic ring crafted by a former leader of the Ghoul tribe. When successfully cast, it can seal the opponent's soul into the ring, gaining different power boosts based on the strength of the seized soul. Seeing the skill effect, Lin Tian felt it wasn't bad. After all, it was a 7th tier piece of equipment. "Now that you've said everything and I have the item, can you let me go?" The beast goblin continued to plead. Lin Tian thought for a moment. "I can, but I can only let go of your body. Your soul, well, He then began to try to control the magic ring. The activation conditions were quite stringent and not simple. He needed to collect the opponent's blood to activate it. He directly used his claws to cut the beast goblin's wrist, letting the blood drip onto the ring. Visibly, the ring absorbed the blood. Immediately, eerie green ghostly hands burst forth. They grabbed the beast goblin, pulling at his soul. During this time, the body could actually resist. But the beast goblin was paralyzed and had no strength to resist. At Nobleman at. Moreover, the closer the distance, the faster the soul was pulled. If it were too far, the opponent could easily resist. The green hands pulled the beast goblin's soul out and into the ring. Lin Tian checked the attributes, and his overall strength increased from 2,200 to 2,400. Although it was only a 200-point increase, if he changed to another stronger soul, the nature would be different. At this moment, Goblin Slayer saw the corpse on the ground. Is this a goblin from the Beast King tribe? Oh, you know. Chapter 49. Stirring up trouble is my forte. TL. Sungman. Lin Tian was somewhat surprised, but upon reflection, it made sense. She was, after all, the Goblin Slayer. Immediately, Goblin Slayer responded, I have heard about it. I had always wanted to exterminate that tribe, but for various reasons, I couldn't go. What reasons could possibly stop you? Lin Tian couldn't help but ask. This guy wanted to kill goblins. Who could possibly stop him? Goblin Slayer shrugged. Isn't it obvious? I couldn't afford to offend their backers. The Beast King tribe is affiliated with the Great Tomb. The monsters there are beyond even the Lionheart Empire's ability to contend with. As she spoke, she noticed something amiss. Wait, did you guys kill him? Gulp. Lin Tian swallowed hard and nodded awkwardly. He then inquired, what exactly is this Great Tomb? You make it sound so terrifying. Goblin Slayer thought for a moment and then explained, it's basically the ruler of the 1,000-mile-wide enchanted forest to the west of the continent. I don't know the specifics, but at least one 12th tier monster, a world-class existence, resides there. That's it, then. 12th tier. What am I supposed to fight with? My head. Lin Tian's heart sank. Damn it, he had transmigrated into a goblin, and now he had to deal with political intrigue. But this kind of situation was unavoidable. Suddenly, he thought of a perfect plan. At this moment, Gobu Kwang was foolishly tearing off a beast goblin's arm and savoring it. This taste is delicious. Get out. Get out. Lin Tian hurriedly kicked him away. Looking at the beast goblin's corpse, which was still mostly intact, he said, hey, what should I call you? You can control goblins, right? Help me out. Just call me Goblin Slayer. What do you want to do? Goblin Slayer looked at him puzzled. Lin Tian first released the beast goblin's soul from the magic ring and then had Goblin Slayer control it with her blood. Sure enough, just like with Gobu Tian and the others, after drinking Goblin Slayer's blood, the beast goblin obediently followed orders. Lin Tian whispered to Goblin Slayer, order him to return to the Beast King tribe and say that he was injured by nobles from the Lionheart Empire, who also stole the magic ring. You know, the Stantmont and Felimon families. He had previously let Cecil go on purpose, planning to ambush him later and use Loader as a hostage to wipe them out and gain some experience points. Now, he hadn't expected to gain even more experience points for free. What kind of sparks would fly between the Beast King tribe and the Imperial nobles? Goblin Slayer couldn't help but admire him. You're becoming more and more interesting. Will you be the next Goblin King? At this moment, she was eager to see what would happen next. Her eyes were filled with love for Lin Tian. Her eyes turned into heart shapes again. She quickly took off her armor and used royal blood to pin Lin Tian down, draining him wildly. Don't look. Don't look. Gobu Yu, Leah, even Lilith, why are you all out here? Gobu Kwang, you big fool too. Lin Tian felt both embarrassed and pleased. He couldn't understand why he was being overpowered. Leah blushed and lowered her head, murmuring to herself, is this how I looked when he dominated me? It's so embarrassing. Boss, I didn't see anything. Gobu Yu, the small goblin, with her flushed face, got so close to Lin Tian that she stared without blinking. Lin Tian said angrily, all right, if that's how it is, none of you will escape later. I'll slip away first. Gobu Yu stuck out her little tongue, pretending to be very busy. Ellipsis. In the Lionheart Empire, far from the range of Bright Town, there lay a massive human city. From a distance, the city appeared boundless, its skyline completely covered by its vast expanse. But the most striking feature was the gigantic golden lion statue, several thousand meters tall, in the center. It was the iconic building of the Lionheart Empire, the Guardian Lion, at Nobleman at. In lion prides, the lion held a high status. Though it rarely hunted, it always led the charge when the pride faced danger. This represented the empire's spirit. If the people faced foreign invasion, the empire's forces would charge forward like a lion. At the lion's feet stood a splendid and magnificent palace, guarded by soldiers in lion-headed silver armor. Surrounding it were the castles of the nobility. Father, I'm sorry, I couldn't complete the task you gave me. I've disgraced the honorable Philemon family. Boo-hoo. In the grand hall of the Philemon family, Cecil, disheveled and hobbling on a crutch, walked in miserably. Upon seeing his father, he knelt in agony. Above him sat a dignified man in a Western-style leather robe, who already knew Cecil had returned. But he had no face to meet him because Cecil was unworthy. Almost the entire noble circle knew that Cecil, a diamond-level adventurer and the eldest son of the Philemon family, had gone to exterminate a group of goblins to avenge the Loder family and himself. However, now the entire group had been wiped out, and he had lost a leg. Philemon's face darkened as he coldly said, "Get out. I'm no longer your father. You worthless thing. You've brought shame to our family's honor. Father, please listen to my explanation. Those goblins were very powerful and extremely intelligent. We were no match for them. Even the Grey Hat heroes were completely annihilated. But, Cousin Loder is still alive." Cecil cried as he explained. Hearing that the Grey Hat heroes were also completely wiped out, a flash of surprise crossed Philemon's face. However, this did not restore the family's honor. Previously, the Stantmont family had been laughing at Loder. Now, both the Stantmont family and they were being laughed at together. In such an era, honor and reputation were extremely important, much like maintaining a clear name in ancient China. For nobles, honor was even more important than life. So even though Loder had died, the Stantmont family did not send anyone to rescue him. It was only at the Sword Saintess's request that they dispatched 2 knight squads to assist. For someone who tarnished the family's honor, death was the best outcome. Finally, Philemon said, "Do you know how outsiders are laughing at us? The eldest sons of 2 families were defeated by goblins. Even if those goblins were very powerful, it's still the same. Goblins, the weakest monster species in people's stereotypes. No matter how powerful they were, no one respected them. It was like being killed by a strong pile of shit or the king of shit. This would be a double death, both physically and in terms of reputation. Father, I'm sorry, it was so terrifying, so terrifying." Cecil knelt on the ground, recalling those terrifying scenes in agony. His body trembled continuously with fear, and he even wet himself on the spot. Everyone in the family was stunned by this scene. His siblings showed expressions of surprise and disdain. Cecil's reputation was utterly ruined. Philemon's expression was one of extreme discomfort, as if he had swallowed shit. Goblins. Goblins. What use are you? Being reduced to this by goblins. Drag him out. Count Philemon, there's no need to be so angry. At this moment, another middle-aged man with a mustache and a maid by his side walked in. He was the head of the Stantmont family. Bill Stantmont. Seeing him, Philemon felt even more humiliated. "Stantmont, you've really caught me at a bad time. My son here is worse off than if he were dead like Loder. Look at his state. Is this still a noble? He's worse than a commoner." Stantmont glanced at the curled-up, crying Cecil and didn't care. "Count Philemon, I came to propose that we join forces to restore our family's honor." "What do you mean? Don't you know that His Imperial Majesty the Emperor has ordered that nobles above the rank of Viscount must keep their troops ready at all times and cannot mobilize them at will?" Philemon said angrily. If they could easily mobilize troops, they would have already gathered a large force to wipe out the goblin tribe. Stantmont, however, waved a finger. "Your perspective is too limited. It's true we can't mobilize our troops easily, but what if we sent part of them to Bright Town as reinforcements? Each person of count rank could mobilize up to 5,000 soldiers, including both cavalry and infantry." But Philemon retorted, "His Majesty has already sent a message to Alicenia. She's already taking action. Do we still need to? That's not the way to look at it. There are always ways around things. Have your son tell His Majesty that the goblins are numerous and very powerful. Each of us can mobilize 1,000 soldiers. Even a goblin overlord would be eliminated." Stantmont said with a sinister smile. The family's honor had to be restored as soon as possible. Most importantly, Cecil had said that Loder was still alive. He couldn't just let him continue living without saving him. The scene fell silent for a moment. Philemon sighed deeply. Alright, don't think I don't know what you're planning. You useless thing. Go get cleaned up and come with me to see the king. In the end, the Lionheart Emperor approved their request, but they couldn't mobilize the Imperial Knights, who were of higher strength. This meant they could only muster forces from their own families for capable combat power. HMPH, 2,000 elite soldiers, and we still can't take down a goblin tribe. Loader, if you were dead, I wouldn't have to go to such lengths. Stantmont muttered coldly, gathering soldiers with Philemon and preparing to set off. Ellipsis. Elsewhere, the beast goblin, under Goblin Slayer's command, was already heading toward the enchanted forest in the far west. Since it wasn't very far, he could reach it by running for 10 days. From a distance, he could see the sky ahead was extremely dark, as if the sunlight above had been sliced away, unable to penetrate. This was the largest enchanted forest on the continent. The Beast King tribe wasn't a particularly powerful monster force. They could only reside on the outskirts of the enchanted forest. It wasn't long before the beast goblin reached the outskirts of the tribe. This tribe occupied an entire valley and was quite expansive, with about 2,000 low-level goblins, 300 big variants, 20 hero variants, 1 mutant variant, and 1 leader variant. Outside, it was considered a super large tribe. But within this enchanted forest, it didn't rank highly and was often bullied by the surrounding monsters. Chapter 50. The Imperial Lion Herd. TL. Sungman. The valley was densely packed with small huts of various shapes and sizes. From a distance, it looked like a mass of goosebumps, there were just so many. This was because, unlike Lin Tian, other goblin tribes didn't refrain from breeding low-level goblins. Here, there were at least 2,000 to 3,000 small goblins. The beast goblin entered the innermost cave, surrounded by heaps of bones, and eerie white. However, he didn't dare go in. He stood respectfully outside, his voice full of fear as he said, "Boss, I failed." In the pitch-black cave, a pair of blood-red eyes suddenly lit up. They stared at him intently. "Boss, please don't be angry, I." The beast goblin retreated repeatedly in fear, sweat pouring down his face. Inside, a giant beast emerged as if there was an earthquake. It was over 3 meters tall, covered in animal fur like the beast goblin. But overall, it looked like a gorilla, with long arms, big fists, and a hairless chest. Moreover, there was a tiger-like king character on its forehead. Its back had crocodile-like skin, and its feet resembled goat hooves. It could be described as a mishmash. This was the leader variant, the Beast King Goblin. Previously, his original tribe lived in an environment rich with various wild animals, creating his unique existence. Hearing that the beast goblin had failed, he immediately extended his large hand, grasping him like a chick. Cough, boss, I. With immense force, he squeezed, causing the beast goblin to vomit blood. His bones shattered, piercing his internal organs. The Beast King Goblin said coldly, "Do you know the value of that magic ring? Compared to it, your life is worthless. But boss, a human army came to seize it. It was already very difficult for me to escape." The beast goblin cried. Upon hearing about the human army, the Beast King Goblin's eyes shifted. Seeing him injured and with a broken hand, he threw him to the ground. He demanded, "You better not be lying to me. What human army? I'm not lying, at least a few thousand soldiers. They probably haven't left yet." The beast goblin spoke as if singing, his eyes full of fear. The Beast King Goblin stared at him deeply. After a long while, he roared to the sky, pounding his chest madly, roar. The entire valley echoed with a rumbling sound. "Gather, attack the humans." As soon as the words fell, goblins began to emerge from the huts, gathering around the Beast King's cave. A vast army, a sight to behold. Soon, 2,000 to 3,000 small goblins, hundreds of big variants, and 20 hero variants, along with 1 mutant variant, gathered before him. Their combined strength rivaled that of an army. The Beast King Goblin commanded, "Lead the way. We must retrieve the magic ring." At Nobleban at. In the Tian Quang tribe, Lin Tian was fiddling with the items he had looted from the adventurers he had slaughtered. The most precious was the simple gunpowder pistol from Edison. Its power was impressive, though its firing frequency was limited and reloading took time. But if he could mass produce them, even in this world of swords and magic, he could easily handle thousands of troops. After several days of disassembling and studying, he roughly understood its structure. However, producing such precise components was challenging. It would take some time. Calculating, it should be possible. In about 20 days, the human noble army and the Beast King tribe would reach Bright Town. 20 days should be enough to make 100 pistols. By then, it would be easy to pick up the leftovers. He then began using a new iron furnace, forging platform, and forging tools. At first, he made simple plate armor, which was quite brittle and didn't offer much defense. The weapons were also extremely rough. But as the forging tools improved, the equipment became more refined. This was why the goblins of the Tian Kuang tribe were far stronger than those of other tribes. Lin Tian didn't trouble himself with making weapons. He left the tedious task to the system. He directly activated the life simulation, skipping ahead 20 days. In total, he obtained 150 simple pistols, along with 50 defective products. The kind that would explode after one shot. Boss, what are these things? Next to the blazing furnace, Weiju asked curiously. Lin Tian explained, these are called pistols. They are very powerful and fun to use, more powerful than bows and arrows, and can be fired instantly at close range. More powerful than bows and arrows. At this moment, Leah walked over curiously. For the past 20 days, she had seen Lin Tian working on these things. She hadn't expected them to be weapons. Lin Tian nodded, provoking, wanna try? Challenged, Leah also showed a provocative expression, taking out a long sheepskin bow. Let's start with a precision contest. Then he walked over to Loader, who looked like a lump of dog shit, covered in grime. He threw a bunch of apples at him. Hold these. If I tell you to put one on your head, you do it. If you don't, I'll aim for your head instead. Before leaving, he placed one on Loader's head. The just awakened Loader was still in a daze. Then he heard a whooshing sound right by his ear. A cold sensation swept over his head. He looked up to see an arrow piercing an apple, embedded in the stone wall. Scared out of his wits, he quickly put another apple on his head. Leah, looking pleased, said, bullseye. Let's see your pistol skills, boss. HMPH, I've been shooting for years. I'm already a master. Lin Tian glanced lightly at the apple on Loader's head, picked up the pistol, and spun it once. Before Leah could react, bang. The gunpowder smoke spurted out, and a small iron ball shattered the apple. Loader's forehead was wet with either apple juice or sweat. He was dumbfounded. What just happened? How did you smash the apple? It felt sudden. He didn't even realize the apple had exploded. It felt like his head had exploded. In this era, firearms were not popular. Only a few had discovered them. Impossible. Such speed and precision. What kind of weapon is this? A pistol. I want to try it too, boss. Leah's eyes were full of excitement, never having seen such a weapon before. Lin Tian gestured for her to get one herself, then began teaching how to fire it. He took out some gunpowder, poured it into the barrel, placed a small iron ball inside, and used a thin rod to press it down firmly. Aim, and fire. Bang. In an instant, a stone next to Loader was shattered into fragments. Loader was speechless. Such a powerful and precise weapon. How could an army possibly stand a chance? He was doomed. Sending Cecil to fetch reinforcements would indirectly doom his family. What kind of monster is this? Under that ugly, short exterior, is it really a goblin? Loader muttered in fear. He had planned to be cunning, but now he might have endangered his family. However, he suddenly realized that his only pillow had just been shattered. Lin Tian also noticed. Sorry, didn't realize. Maybe you can piece it back together. Loader wanted to be angry but deflated. He didn't know who would win the upcoming battle. He could only hope his family brought more troops, increasing their chances of victory. At this moment, Gobu Tian ran in. Boss, Bright Town is filled with a large number of armed humans. Boss, I also saw many goblins approaching. Said another dark goblin. Lin Tian nodded. Let's prepare as well. The show is about to begin. Roar. Hundreds of big variants roared inside the cave, battle intent surging. They had been preparing for days, ready to enter full combat at any moment. Ellipsis. In Bright Town, Count Philemon and Count Stantmont, clad in golden and silver armor, rode carnivorous horses. Their subordinates held high the Lionheart flag, full of vigor. Their noble aura, built from years of high status, was unmistakable. Behind them were 800 iron-hoofed soldiers. Each carnivorous horse covered in iron armor, ridden by well-equipped soldiers. The sound of their hooves was thunderous. Further back were 1,000 infantrymen. Marching in neat formations, the front held large silver shields, spears bristled behind them, advancing in order. Flags fluttered and roared in the wind. Like a lion's roar. Such a formidable formation was awe-inspiring. Their journey scared off countless mountain bandits and robbers. All fled back home to farm obediently. Everyone thought they had come to exterminate them. Welcome, Count Philemon, Count Stantmont. At the town gate, the new mayor, formerly the tavern owner, bowed respectfully. Stantmont paid him little mind, looking around and asking, "Where is Alicenia?" The sword Saintess had some business. "What brings you two with such a grand entourage?" asked the wandering hero arrogantly as he stepped out. Although faced with imperial nobles, he felt his status as a hero who fought alongside the sword Saintess and slew an ancient dragon wasn't inferior. Philemon glanced at him, not recognizing him, and ignored him. This made the wandering hero awkward. "I'm a dragon slayer. A hero who fought alongside the sword Saintess. How dare you look down on me?" "I see, my apologies. Then come with us to subdue those goblins," said Stantmont, removing his helmet and extending his hand. The wandering hero quickly understood their purpose but was hesitant about fighting goblins. After all, they had wiped out 300 adventurers. There would be casualties. But looking at the dense, imposing soldiers outside the town, he began to reconsider. Raising his eyebrows, he shook hands. "No problem, it's my duty." Though he said this, inside, he was elated. With so many well-equipped soldiers, it would be easy to mix in and appear to be contributing. This would secure his status as an epic adventurer.